What's going on? Isn't Golden Emperor demon fruit power? Why not use power? Some pirates looked up at the dark sky with thunder and lightning. They all knew that there was the Golden Emperor's greatest support on it, and it was also the human-shaped Golden Mountain that they most greedy for. But the battle now is very strange. The Golden Emperor was repelled by his attacks again and again, but he never used the Devil Fruit ability, which seemed stupid. Big news. Morgan's is very dedicated. The flash of the camera in his hand flashes non-stop. The super high shooting technique comes from all angles. At this moment he has thought of his news headlines. Funny kid. The lonely red sticking to the black umbrella, the emerald red eyes are full of playfulness. This kid is actually practicing with Whitebeard, and he has to be bold. But this is interesting. In fact, there are still many people who can be seen, such as Sengoku. Even Marco, who had returned, could see it, so his face was gloomy and terrifying. The Golden Emperor's behavior was simply insulting the old man. But why does Dad want to accompany that crazy guy? Marco could see that the old man hadn't been serious at all, otherwise the Golden Emperor would have knelt down a long time ago. It seems that the old man really wants to treat the Golden Emperor as a son. Is this an education? Boom. When two punches collided in the field, Chaos couldn't control it and rolled to the ground, leaving traces like a ball. Eventually, he got up from the pit with a sullen face, breathing quickly, and his face was bloody. The golden armor on his body has not known how many times it has cracked, but each time it quickly returns to its original state. The upright blonde hair was messed up on his face because it was stained with sweat and dust, and with that bad face, it looked even more embarrassing. Standing swayingly, Chaos stretched out his hand to lift his messy hair back, exposing his forehead to take a breath. His domineering eyes never disappeared. He was still the expression of invincibility. Look down on this and look down on that. Very annoying. It's this time, still playing handsome. Stussy, who stood with Crocodile in the distance, was full of ups and downs inside. You will be beaten to death if you pull it like this. Should we do it? Stussy tilted her head to look at the man next to her, smoking a cigar slowly, calmly. Don't panic. Wait for the signal. Crocodile turned his head and glanced at Stussy, as if everything was in the master. I don't know where the honey is confident. The other party is Whitebeard. Do you know the weight of Whitebeard? These two lunatics suck. In the messy center, Chaos took out a crumpled cigar. His right hand was trembling and frustrated, and after a sip, he showed a comfortable expression like ascending to the sky. Although his body seemed to fall apart, his demeanor was always maintained. The white mist steam produced by the return of life, the bells and whistles forming lines are constantly rising. Very visual. Edward Newgate, in the Field of Fists, my Golden Emperor would like to call you the strongest. Chaos opened his mouth, flicking soot seriously. He understood so many moves in the fight, the other party was not serious at all. Very angry. But there is no way, the gap between the two sides is really a bit big. I'm afraid it was the same for Garp and Sengoku back then. Without waiting for Whitebeard to answer, Chaos continued to say, but it's over. As the words of Chaos fell, a huge golden leg slowly fell down from the dark sky, surrounded by black and red thunder, and finally crashed to the ground. The goddess appears. Cool Lala. Do you want to use your power? Whitebeard looked at the huge enchanting goddess, and his eyes became more and more satisfied when he saw Chaos. He is going to make a decision for this son. It's so overbearing. Jingle bells ringing. The light wheel behind the goddess and the ribbon on the wrist are all turned into various swords, guns, swords and halberds on the head. At the same time, the palace dress transforms into a golden battle armor and enters the battle mode, staring at Whitebeard and pressing down with a finger. The sound of breaking through the air tore the eardrums, and hundreds of 18 weapons fell. Whitebeard's coat fluttered behind him, laughed and squeezed his right fist, and a white air pressure hood appeared, and then smashed against the golden meteor shower from the air. There were dense cracks in the atmosphere in front of him. The burst broke into pieces. Call out. Chaos walked close to the ground, grasping the gap where Whitebeard made his move, and in one fell swoop, his hands became calyx-shaped and merged into one. Use the highest attack of the out-of-body technique as soon as it comes up. 6 Styles Emperor Gun. All the compressive force blasted out in one fell swoop, and the tearing air hit Whitebeard's abdomen close at hand. The ground surface was torn in a radius of 1,000 meters, chunks of huge crust rose up, and the billowing smoke blocked everything. Now Chaos's face was ugly, his hands pointed at Whitebeard's abdomen, but the electric light and flint were blocked by the latter's hand, and the damage was not as great as expected. Didn't even vomit blood. Behind the goddess stepped All the weapons that had been shattered before became one and turned into a sky-reaching spear, with the tip of the spear wrapped in an armed color and pierced towards Whitebeard in one fell swoop. Whitebeard's attack was still so monotonous. With a punch in the air, the force that moved the mountain and filled the sea forcibly shattered the spear, and spread to the body of the goddess, and with the huge roar, the goddess was actually blown up. However, as chaos shook hands, all the gold turned into locks of the sky 1 meter thick, falling like a sharp arrow towards Whitebeard. Click. Click. Whitebeard held his right hand high, and the white air pressure hood was blasted out in one fell swoop. The atmosphere close to 30 meters in front of him was completely shattered. In the end, he formed an unmatched force. The powerful and overbearing force broke all the locks of the sky. In the face of these fancy attacks from chaos, Whitebeard was simple and straightforward. All shattered with absolute strength, it can be said to be breaking all laws with one force. Very straightforward, very monotonous, but very useful. Ping A is right. Clang clang. Chaos held his right hand high, the crashing gold collided with the sound of golden leather, and finally formed a giant sword that rose into the sky, stepped forward and raised the earth's crust around it, and chaos swept down the world in one fell swoop. Killing great sword. The thunderous clouds were split in half. 99% of the people at the scene watched the blow in amazement. Compared to the expensive and gorgeous soaring sword, Whitebeard looked extremely small. But there is the power of landslides in the tiny body. Whitebeard laughed loudly, turned sideways and made a fist with his right hand, and smashed out in one fell swoop when the golden giant sword was approaching. In an instant, the overwhelming power was transmitted to chaos through the golden giant sword. Puff. The golden greatsword spread out and all the cracks shattered. At the same time, chaos seemed to be hit hard, and the golden armor on his body split, revealing a golden body, but it still couldn't resist the shock. The entire chest was slightly sunken, and the vomiting of blood could not be stopped in the nose and mouth, and finally turned into a cannonball, leaving a huge gully lying at the end. Whitebeard gave this serious punch, and chaos resisted it. But it was hit hard. This is still in the case of stacking the thickest armor. If there is no iron body, gold, golden armor, and armed color, I am afraid that this punch can kill chaos. At the peak of Whitebeard, not everyone can resist a serious punch. Huh. Lying in the chaotic ravine, the white mist rising from chaos' body began to disappear, which meant that the return of life had disappeared. Shaking and trembling, he picked up the broken cigar, and then flared up again, emitting a smoke ring, giving the ultimate white face a hint of rosy. His stamina is almost exhausted. The same is true for armed colors. From the beginning of the battle to the present, every time he attacked chaos, he had used the armed color, and it was a little unbearable for serious injuries. Lying on the ground like this, conquerors also faded like a tide, causing the sky of thunder and lightning to return to normal. He lost. Undoubtedly defeated. There is no need to continue struggling, no matter how unwilling he is, the facts are right before his eyes. He couldn't hit Whitebeard hard. This feeling is not the first time, but it is as unhappy as ever. The first time Garp broke, the second time Sengoku broke, and the third time it was to Whitebeard. These three guys gave him a deep insight into what is the powerhouse at the top of the pyramid. But it is impossible to make chaos surrender. One day he will trample these three people under his feet. With a mouthful of a wrinkled cigar, chaos slowly climbed up sideways, shaking as if he would fall to the ground at any time, with blood dripping in his mouth and nose, and his blonde hair, sword eyebrows, and pupils were all restored to black, but his body was tattered. The rotten golden armor began to recover. At the same time, the broken golden greatsword fragments all collided with sparks, and finally merged into one and became the goddess standing behind, and the heroine stared at Whitebeard without a beard. Do you want to continue? Whitebeard crossed his shoulders and looked at chaos with interest. That look is just to eat chaos. There is no second way except to be his son. Dissatisfied? Let's talk about the abduction first. He believes that it only takes a few more love educations, and they can become a happy family. But before chaos could answer, Whitebeard looked towards the sky suddenly. Lonely red, Sengoku doesn't know when he is looking in which direction. Sure enough, is it here? Unexpectedly at this time. Sengoku has a solemn expression. If these monsters clash here, Sabaody archipelago will never be saved, and it will even hit Marineford. In trouble. Buzzing. A black dot in the sky approached from far away, hanging above everyone in the blink of an eye. The entire Sabaody archipelago was suffocated. Residents in other mangrove areas raised their heads, stunned and full of horror. Island. The island flies in the sky. The light was covered to form a shadow, and what appeared to everyone was a small island. Suspended above everyone's head, it was full of oppression, and the heart seemed to be squeezed and hard to beat. Things have happened. Stussy pressed her skirt against the hem, her wavy, curly hair was constantly flying in the gusty wind, and she was frightened as she watched the cloud-covered island. Damn, even this kind of character is here. Brother Parasparrow, this situation can only be taken advantage of by the mother in person. In the big mom camp, someone swallowed and spoke. I can only give up catching the Golden Emperor. Parasparrow's face was stern. Even if Katakuri came here, it was useless. Only his mother had the right to speak. Big news. The happiest person in the audience was Morgans. He didn't expect that there will be so many big guys gathered today. He has never been so complete in many years. If there is a collision, it will really be a big deal. How do you escape? On a broken mangrove in the distance, the dragon withdrew his gaze from the suspended island and looked at the embarrassed chaos in the center, and it was troublesome to talk to himself. These big people appear here, and everything can be guessed with a little brain. So how can the Golden Emperor in the center of Uzumaki escape? Long doesn't think he can turn things around and take the Golden Emperor away. This guy is too high profile. Do you want to give up? Long thought, having a headache. Gia ha ha ha. Haki's awe-inspiring laughter came from the island, covering the whole area full of unscrupulous. Newgate, he's the one I'm looking at. Accompanied by unceremonious voices, several figures fell from the island, headed by the man wearing an orange and yellow coat, with golden hair hanging down, and 2 long knives slung around his waist. The man seemed to smile 10 feet off the ground, that's it. Standing in the air with his hands on his shoulders. The 5 figures behind them fell on the ground, overlooking the audience filled with indifference and arrogance. Admiral of the Flying Pirates, Golden Lion Shiki. A reward of 1.58 billion for the captain of the 4th Fleet, Strongman Pastor. 1.556 million captain of the 5th Fleet, Charming Idol Groot. 1.6 billion captain of the 9th Fleet, Queen Jelly Ann. 193 million captain of the 11th Fleet, Shang Fei Jessica. And the captain of the 15th Fleet, the 710 million Lone Wolf Spander. One by one, the pirates turned pale and revealed the identities of the 5 people standing behind the Golden Lion. They were all big shots. Beloric, Sengoku, meet again. Golden Lion lit a cigar and glanced at the lonely red with a wicked smile and Sengoku with a calm face. The only people who can talk to him on an equal footing are these 2 people plus Whitebeard, and the rest are ignored. Humph. Faced with Golden Lion's greeting, the lonely red just outlines the corners of his mouth, which can be regarded as a kind of response. Sengoku is different, humming sullenly, Kulala. Shiki, he is already my son. Whitebeard lifted his foot and stepped on it, and the ground around it cracked, spreading to the place where the young knife was inserted into the clouds, and then the weapon flew into the air and was caught by Whitebeard. This kind of weapon-grabbing action is very handsome. Newgate, this kid killed my men, and I am determined to gain his ability. Golden Lion dangling his cigar, his figure landed in the air in front of Whitebeard, the lion-like golden mane dancing wildly. That arrogant tone is full of indisputable. Whitebeard did not speak, but narrowed his eyes slightly, and the smiling face of Golden Lion gradually disappeared. Needles dropped throughout the scene, many pirates swallowed wildly, and their legs couldn't stop shaking. The depressed aura caused the air to stagnate. A bubble burst on the heads of the 2 of them. Whitebeard grabbed the clump of clouds with both hands, and Golden Lion pulled out Sakura 10. As the sky collided with the earth, the whole world solidified. In an instant, the billowing black clouds that had dissipated completely blocked the sunlight again. Boom. In the earth-shattering collision, a large number of black and red thunders appeared from the place where the 2 weapons collided. At the same time, the entire Sabaody archipelago began to tremble. That force could not be resisted, and Chaos opened his mouth and vomited blood and was lifted off. He fell to the ground in disbelief and watched in disbelief that there was only a dense collision of black and red thunder at the center. Only Jiyu Gao Jihong and Sengoku stood safe and sound within 100 meters. As for the others, they were all thrown out. Some people died directly. The 2 conquerors that swallowed the mountains and rivers of anger were not comparable to the immature conquerors of chaos. The weak-willed had already been shaken to death, and most of the undead fainted with blood. Those who can stay awake and get up from the ground are all pirates who are famous or have something to do in the future. Click. Hoo. The dense black and red thunder radiated from the center like a black snake, and the entire blackness sank into the suffocating sky, completely cracked in half, as if the sky began to agitate and collapse. The ring-shaped air pressure impacted one after another, and the surface of the 10,000-meter radius began to twist and crack, and the cracks in the spiderwebs were torn like huge centipede scars. With number 1 mangrove as the center, all the creatures in the surrounding mangrove areas fell like wheat, covering most of the Sabaody archipelago. The entire island is shaking, and the surrounding sea is turbulent, an apocalyptic scene. The two just collided together, and the natural scene caused was catastrophic. Newgate, Shiki, do you two bastards want to destroy Sabaody archipelago? Sengoku glared wide and furious as he watched the collapsed area. The two did not even care about their strength, and the damage caused by the collision was increasing. If the two were allowed to continue this way, or even make a big move, then Sabaody archipelago would definitely not be able to keep it. He must stop. Sengoku turned into a golden Buddha, King Kong appeared glaringly and teleportedly, and two huge Buddha palms blasted out at the two without mercy. Their domineering posture was not weak, Golden Lion and Whitebeard. Jia ha ha. Cool lala. Facing Sengoku's two palms, Golden Lion and Whitebeard laughed loudly, as if they were deliberately forcing Sengoku off the court. Golden Lion drew another long knife from his waist, Whitebeard's left hand showed a pressure shield, and the two of them simultaneously resisted Sengoku's palm. Damn it. Withdraw. Quick. The characters such as Marco, Paparosparrow, Cracker, and King of Color who were still awake, their complexions changed rapidly and retreated. Who would dare to watch the collision of these three people up close? Except for the loneliness of the scene, no one is qualified. Click. As if the sky and the earth collided, the entire world lost its sound, and the sky that was originally divided into two halves began to split into three strands, representing the Golden Lion, Whitebeard and Sengoku respectively. The figures of the three of them are no longer visible, and the center is like bathing in a sea of black and red thunder, with only three tall shadows faintly, and their respective dancing coats. Everything in the island in the atmosphere is shaking. The huge gullies spread around the three people. Not good. At Marine Station, cranes were flying, and the Rosed Saint by his side and Marine in the base all fell to the ground and lost consciousness. Looking up at the sky divided into three halves in the black and red thunder that kept falling and splashing, his face changed in shock. 3 shares of Conquerors, Sengoku got involved. If Golden Lion and Whitebeard work together to put pressure on Sengoku, the latter will not be able to hold it. Crane didn't have time to think too much, so he discarded the Rosevard Saints and quickly flew towards the number 1 mangrove area. Jia haha, for so many years, I have never been so excited. Kulala, Barlarik, you still want to watch the show? Whitebeard and Golden Lion laughed arrogantly, and turned their heads to look at the only man in the court who was calm and composed, the man closest to them. As for the others, they can no longer be seen in sight. Then I will play with you. Lonely Red is also ready to move. How could he be indifferent to this situation? Usually everyone is one-on-one, and this is the first time this situation has occurred. If you don't make a collision, you will regret it for a lifetime. Huh. Boom boom. The Lonely Red appeared strangely, and Whitebeard, Golden Lion, and Sengoku seemed to have a sharp heart. They all pumped their hands at the same time. Then the clouds cut, withered wood, Buddha's palm, and a black umbrella were divided into 4 camps and collided in amazement. Click. 10-meter thick black and red thunders spread from the center. The sky that was originally split in 3 halves collapsed again and changed dramatically, eventually forming 4 halves tilted. You 3 bastards. Sengoku turned into a big Buddha, with dazzling golden light all over his body, and looked at the 3 guys in front of him angrily. The scene at the moment is terrifying. The 4 conquerors were in their respective camps, and they collided strongly. Now not only is the entire island shaking, but the surrounding turbulent waters are also beginning to shake, and almost everyone on the island has been stunned. Damn it. Damn it. 10,000 meters away, Parasparrow and others knelt on one knee, their faces pale and clung to them. Even Marco and others are the same, no one can remain normal in this situation. Boss. Stussy and Crocodile's faces were also pale as paper. They were already determined people without fainting, but they were already weakened and unable to stand up. If it's just one person conquerors, even the top conquerors, they won't be so unbearable, at least they can stand up, even if it is faltering. But now the 4-strand conquerors collision, the impact is definitely not 1 + 1 + 1 + 1 = 4, but equal to 5. Fortunately to be far away, otherwise. Lao Sha, Stussy, now is the time to test you. Chaos stood in front of the two, turned around and showed white teeth with a look of embarrassment. The goose feather gold coat and vertical hair were constantly dancing, but those black eyes were excited and crazy. Not even a trace of fear. Crocodile and Stussy were a bit stunned, because the man in front of them was as confident as ever, and his neurotic smile was full of infectious power at this moment. If you want to be stronger, you have to face up to the fear and weakness in your heart. I know you can. Don't forget the purpose and culture of our team. No one can be more arrogant, freer, and more rampant than us. Even if we die, we must fight for the first place. After Chaos finished speaking, he turned his head abruptly and took a step. The immature Conquerors is always arrogant and domineering, breaking into the four-strand Conquerors collision strongly and madly. At almost the same moment, Whitebeard, Golden Lion, Sengoku, and Lonely Red all looked in the direction of Chaos. Interesting. The corners of the Lonely Red lips showed a wicked smile. Kulala, really bold. I like it more. Whitebeard and Golden Lion laughed. Only Sengoku was silent with a sullen face. At this moment, in the sky that divides the world, a crack can be seen, gradually forming 5 camps, but the camp representing Chaos is too small. Just like a young dragon, although it is very immature and weak, it still dared to rampage into the battle of 4 adult dragons. With this courage and madness, as long as this young dragon does not die, it will definitely be the overlord in the future. But from a bad point of view, this is beyond self-reliance. So Chaos paid the price. With each step, the pressure on the shoulders became heavier, and a drop of blood spilled from the corner of the mouth, and finally spread impartially on the faces of Crocodile and Stussy. The two slumped to the ground, looking at the moving back. For some reason there was an emotion in their hearts. This man is no worse than anyone, and he will definitely surpass those 4 in the future. Lousy as Crocodile. How can I be scared away? Stussy, who was emptying, was taken aback, and Crocodile next to him didn't know what was going crazy or being stimulated. The hideous face got up, his eyes were bloodshot and he was crazy. Boom. Taking a step with his right foot, the trembling legs can be clearly seen, but Crocodile roared, and took another step to follow Chaos's step, slowly walking towards the center step by step. He is Crocodile. The proudest Crocodile. The most arrogant Crocodile. The most rampant Crocodile. How can I be scared off by the mere Conquerors? Thinking of the team's mission and culture in his mind, that is the life he pursues. As he stepped forward, Crocodile's belief in his heart became more and more tenacious. He looked up at the back figure in front of him, like a ray of light in the dark night, guiding him forward. He wants to surpass this man, surpass everyone. Behind, Stussy wiped off the blood beads on his face, looking at the 2 confident backs of Honeyjuice. The pale face turned red for some reason, and immediately a rush of blood rushed to the sky. Young and frivolous. Why a woman is weaker than a man? Why can a woman not be the master of the house, and why the old lady should listen to your orders? My freedom and destiny should be master in my own hands. I can do whatever I want, no one is qualified to teach my mother. The unyielding that had been pressed in the bottom of my heart suddenly burst out at this moment, and Stussy finally remembered. It turned out that she had longed for freedom and dreams, and the life she had used was not what she wanted. What ordinary women pursue, she has also hoped. I believe you, my mother. Biting his blood-red lips, Stussy exploded and addressed the old lady directly. Stand up hard, and made a decision with one step. She wants to change her life now. She is tired of being a puppet that others call and flick. She is going to pursue the life she wants. At this moment, she is reborn. Yes, after Lao Sha, another one is lost. In this way, the 3 of them were advancing very stubbornly and tenaciously one after the other, just like small carps in the surging river, fighting against the current to climb up the Wanzhong waterfall. Both the spiritual will and the body have been challenged tremendously. Hey! What is the Golden Emperor doing? How dare he? And the King of the Desert and the Queen of Joy. Almost everyone who was awake had difficulty standing up. Almost all of them collapsed on the ground like mud, but as Chaos, Crocodile, and Stussy kept advancing, they immediately attracted the remaining gaze. Mal's subject was calm, looking at the 3 people of Chaos who were constantly advancing in the black and red thunder. There was a trace of admiration and fighting spirit in their expressions. We can't shame Daddy. Joe's seemed to be stimulated, and he stepped out of his short legs and stepped out toward the center. As Whitebeard's son, there is no reason to shrink at this moment. This situation can be said to have been rare in decades. It is simply the best opportunity to exercise the spirit and will. As long as it is carried over, it will definitely go further in the future. Joe's is right. If we can't stop this pressure, then we don't deserve to be father's son. Bramink looked serious and stepped out. The other captains also raised their heads slightly, with pride in their bones. Just because they are the sons of Whitebeard Edward Newgate. One Whitebeard pirate team leader after another, all gritted their teeth and took that heavy step forward. They all held a sigh of relief and absolutely wanted to go to the nearest Brother Cracker. In the Big Mom camp, someone suddenly yelled. Because Cracker also stepped forward, even letting out his aura, stepping out of the Cracker warrior, walking towards the center step by step. There are also Jelly Queen and others brought by Golden Lion. As well as Marines such as Peluzalino and Flying Squirrel, none of them missed this hard-won opportunity. It is not unreasonable that these people can become reputable powerhouses now and in the future. Perhaps it was stimulated, more and more people started to stand up, even if their legs trembled in fear, they gritted their teeth and walked towards the horror center. Cool lala. At the center, Whitebeard laughed ostentatiously, and the actions of Marco and others made him very satisfied. Also make him proud. Sengoku wanted to stop at first, but as Marines such as Peluzalino and Flying Squirrel entered the game, he gave up his thoughts. At this moment, whether it is Whitebeard, Golden Lion or Sengoku, they are all deliberately maintaining this situation. They all want to train people in their own camp, but they are different. From his debut until now, he has been alone. Even if it is too late for him to let go, the three of Sengoku have the spirit to suppress him together and make them have to cooperate, which can be said to be very insidious. You three guys. How can I not see the Lonely Red, but who is he? He is the Lonely Rider, the Earl of Scarlet, the Lonely Red, and no one can force him as long as he doesn't want it. Gia ha ha ha. Beloric, you don't want to see how many people can withstand our pressure. Golden Lion's words evoked the thoughts of Lonely Red watching the show. He really wanted to see how many of these juniors could walk to the position of 100 meters. Especially the Golden Emperor, he is very interested. In that case, is it too gentle? The evil smile hung on his face, looking a little sorrowful, his lonely red eyes glared suddenly, and the terrifying conquerors unreservedly pressed directly against Whitebeard, Golden Lion and Sengoku. Cool lala. Click. The four conquerors all erupted like a volcano, and they began to go all out to collide with the sky and the earth. A 10-meter thick black and red thunder spread, and the entire Sabaody archipelago began to shake and split. A hurricane formed a tsunami in the surrounding waters, and the apocalyptic scene became more and more intense. Puff. A mouthful of blood spouted from Chaos' mouth, and he almost knelt on one knee. Pressure, unprecedented pressure. He seemed to carry a mountain on his shoulders, heavier and heavier, and his head seemed to be prickling. Lousy is the most arrogant man in the world. His eyes were congested and almost tore his eye sockets, and chaos kept bleeding from his mouth and nose, and his face was hideous like a ghost. These four guys were just his stepping stones, and conquerors, too, underestimated him. Even if you die, you have to fight for the first place. The painful mind seemed to have some shackles open. The black cloud in the sky that was originally suppressed to the corner suddenly expanded more arrogantly than before and hit the four camps without fear. The conquerors of chaos broke through after being oppressed by ultimate. How fierce the pressure is, how fierce the rebound is at this moment. Conquerors is innate. It is a person's aura, will, courage, and spirit, which cannot be acquired, and can only grow and become stronger with experience. And now facing the four super strong conquerors' oppression, it is simply the best training. And it is a hell-level training. Huh. Cranes flashed one after another in the distance, and finally came to the scene. Seeing the doomsday scene spreading from the black and red thunder in the center, he frowned after scanning the surroundings. In the end she focused on chaos. She doesn't talk about fairness in the face of pirates. Those who should be caught will definitely catch them at the least cost. It is the most stupid to talk about fairness or affection with pirates. Perhaps only Garp would do this. Whether it is Sengoku or Crane, or Zephyr nowadays, they are not affectionate to pirates. The camps are very clear, and they won't be mixed with other emotions like Garp. A thief is a thief. What's more, the Golden Emperor is not another pirate, it must be controlled by Marine. What happened? On the distant sea horizon, a warship is constantly undulating in the sea, just like a flatboat can be submerged by waves at any time. The sea was turbulent, and the sky was dark with lightning and thunder, storms were constantly sweeping, and the weather was terrible. Squeak. The cabin door was open, and a tall man with purple hair wearing a coat of justice, looked at the turbulent sky, his resolute face was full of solemnity. Zephyr came back from New World. Looking at the sea horizon, that is the direction of Sabaody archipelago. Where the black and red thunder spread, the entire sky was faintly divided into four halves, and the smallest camp was ignored. Kuzan, I'll go there first. Didn't Zephyr feel the powerful breath of the 4 collisions? They are all old opponents? I'm afraid Sengoku is in a bad situation now. Yes. Kuzan behind him is serious. He originally followed Garp to pursue the Roger pirates, but received an order midway, so he joined Zephyr and returned from New World. Boom. As soon as the Kuzan words fell, Zephyr lifted off like a cannonball, and then there was a burst of atmospheric sound. A halo of atmospheric pressure appeared behind Zephyr and disappeared on the horizon like a rainbow in the blink of an eye. Wherever it went, the rough sea split into a trench. You can imagine how fast Zephyr is. The combination of shaving and moonwalk has already been used superbly. As Zephyr's body turned red and white mist rose up, the sonic boom sounded like a bomb exploding, and the air squeezed to form a halo spreading in the air, and Zephyr's speed increased by another level. When Sabaody archipelago formed a black spot, Whitebeard, Golden Lion, Lonely Red, and Sengoku, who were in a stalemate, collided, all heading in this direction, and then they showed various smiles. It looks like that guy hasn't been devastated yet. Lonely Red was the first to speak. Since Zephyr's family was killed, Zephyr has rarely appeared on the sea except for the necessary tasks. You can feel the breath, as strong as ever. Cool lala. Just bad Garp. Golden Lion laughed too. If Garp is also there, it will be more interesting. However, Golden Lion and Whitebeard both looked in the other direction, and their faces gradually condensed. Puff. Chaos opened his mouth and spurted blood, and his pale face became white again. He was hit by a heavy blow and turned into a cannonball and pushed all the way, finally lying in the ruined wall and constantly vomiting blood. At the same time, Conquerors also faded. Crane appeared in the position where Chaos stood before, retracted his right foot expressionlessly, and chased after him. She is very decisive. Shot directly on Chaos. Cough cough cough. The gravel dust was scattered, and Chaos stood up from the pit, not wanting to roll on the spot. In the next second, the surface of the ground tore, and 1 foot of the crane went deep into the ground and the spider's web spread around it. At the same time, the entire pit continued to expand. Chaos pulled away by the airwave, panting for irritation. Now that this opportunity was when he was training Conquerors, he didn't expect that Crane would even hit him with a kick. Boss. Crocodile and Stussy want to help, but this distance is very close to the collision center. Their actions are completely suppressed by the 4 Conquerors, and their strength can be said to be impossible. The action is very laborious. From this point, we can see that the crane is powerful, and its strength does not seem to be too much suppressed in this environment. At this moment, Saruga saw Chaos dodge and kicked out of the air to form a crescent-shaped tempest kick. The sweeping air was full of sharpness, and even steel could be easily cut off. I don't have time to play with you. Kyos was embarrassed again, watching the crane raging into the sky. Reached out and grabbed at Marine's garrison. All-weather seeing and hearing colors can already cover Sabaody archipelago, and all people with gold powder in their bodies can perceive it. Since the awakening of seeing, hearing and appearance, except for sleeping, Chaos has released seeing and hearing appearance all the time. How many days and nights have passed, the scope of seeing and hearing appearance has continued to expand. Sometimes even sleep releases the sight and taste. Almost all have formed a habit. At present, there is only one direction in Chaos's practice, and that is scope. Combining the abilities of the golden fruit, in the future, even if you are 100 miles away, you can use the king's treasure to win the first level, which is especially a means of cultivation. This idea is very bold. In order to be arrogant and high profile and pretend to be B, Chaos usually wonders. In the future, there will be enough gold to control, and he wants to get a platoon of 9 dragons to pull the coffin. How to be fancy? Could it be? He didn't understand the actions of Chaos at first, but his face changed after he quickly recovered. Could this guy? Seeing the color radiating out, when he noticed that the unconscious Saint Rosevard and Idalia's palace were approaching here quickly, he looked gloomy and rainy. When did you control them? The ground exploded under the crane's feet and appeared in front of Chaos in a blink of an eye. The gloves of both hands had been taken off for some time, and he wiped out Chaos in an attempt to stop it. Chaos had been prepared for a long time, and still evaded in embarrassment. At the same time, the goddess fell from the sky holding the golden huge sword, forming a shadow and smashing at the crane in one fell swoop. Surrounded by hills, a large amount of dust formed a stormy wave, and the corner of Chaos' mouth was bleeding coldly and looked at the crane. Try it again. It will take some time for Saint Rosevard and Idalia's palace to arrive, but as long as he is willing, they can make them explode like fireworks. Crane's eyes were full of sorrow. Considering whether to pretend that he didn't know, he still shot Chaos. But after thinking about it for 3 seconds, I gave up. There are still many people who have not fallen on the scene. If the Rosevard Saint and Idalia's palace died here, they would be too much to talk about it and cannot stand up to scrutiny or investigation. If the death of Saint Rosevard and Idalia's palace is due to her, the celestial dragons in the Holy Land will definitely be held accountable, and she may have a lot of trouble. The gain is not worth the loss. The two held each other in this way, and it didn't take long for Saint Rosevard and Idalia's palace, who were in a coma, to fly out of the ruins, and the crane did not move. She knew that even if it was cut off, it would be useless, as long as the Golden Emperor was willing to let them die on the spot. You should know what it will bring to celestial dragons. Crane looked at the Rosevard Saint and Idalia's palace, which had fallen at the feet of Chaos, with no expression on his face. Don't talk nonsense with me, just stand there. Chaos was too lazy to fight with the crane, and raised his hand to spread 2 golden tributaries from the goddess, curling the throats of the 2 saints of Rosd and lifting them in the air, posing a serious threat. Then, ignoring the frosty crane, conquerors lifted off again to resist the 4 giant wills, and at the same time walked towards the Whitebeard 4 step by step. Crane looked at Chaos in this way, shook his hands and shook his hands. This guy is too rampant. The reason why Chaos is so unscrupulous is that as long as the lives of Saint Rosevard and Idalia's palace are in his hands, he can let marines such as Crane and Sengoku throw rat-fighting weapons. Even threats can temporarily order 2 people. At that time, retreat can force Marine to break the queen. Knowing that celestial dragons were on the island in Chaos, he had this idea. Otherwise, he may have already withdrawn in this case. After all, the characters who stared at him were too powerful. This can be considered a trouble of happiness. Chaos thinks very well, but some people don't want him to feel better. The Golden Emperor. The sound of gnashing teeth flew over, and the Jelly Queen appeared in front of Chaos and angrily, sweeping with 1 foot without any mercy. Chaos only had time to raise his hand to block, and then he couldn't control his body back continuously. Perhaps it was because of the injury, and the corners of his mouth dripped blood. I was careless last time, this time you don't want to run away again. The Jelly Queen was murderous, and behind her strongman Pastor, charming Idol Groot, Shangfei Jessica, and Lone Wolf Spad all looked at Chaos with different expressions. Oh shit. Chaos looked at this pedestrian with an ugly face, and in his current situation, he might not even be able to do the Lone Wolf Spad. Crane, it's time for you Marine to take action. Chaos ignores the Jelly Queen, but focuses on the strong man, the charming idol, and the concubine. After all, this is the first time the 2 parties have met. As for the Jelly Queen and Lone Wolf, they are already acquaintances. Crane stood in the distance, looking at the Rosevard Saint and Idalia's palace controlled by the goddess. His face was as ugly as it was when he heard the threat of Chaos's natural threat. Judging from the character currently displayed by the Golden Emperor, it is really possible to kill celestial dragons. Damn it. Crane has never been so bad before. I have thought of several ways, but the success rate is not very high. For example, control the threat of the King of the Desert and the Queen of Joy, or let Paluzolino take a quick shot. But the main thing is that the 2 saints of Roswald have gold powder in their bodies. Don't do it alone, I don't want anyone to bother. Seeing the crane dart behind the Jelly Queen, the corners of Chaos's mouth curled up and enjoyed it. This kind of threatening feeling is a bit above. And the other party is still a famous person. Talk about a condition. Crane was expressionless, looking sideways at Chaos without the anger he imagined, very calm. Don't worry, I will let go of these 2 guys as long as I'm safe. Chaos knew what Crane wanted to say, and he waved his hand with a trivial expression on his face, which was very annoying. Seeing that the crane remained silent, Chaos was extremely rampant. He still didn't speak, but turned to face the Jelly Queen in the group. Not far away, Marines such as Paluzolino and Flying Squirrels also noticed the situation a long time ago, and withdrew their gazes from the Rosevard Saints who were controlled by the goddess, and finally stood with the crane. Crocodile and Stussy were also very clever, and stood close behind Chaos for the first time. Dignified Marine Vice Admiral Crane, unexpectedly threatened by a pirate, interesting. The charming idol of the captain of the 5th Fleet, Groot, his beautiful face is full of playful abuse, with long blonde hair that reaches the waist, and he is very smooth flying in the wind. I have to say he is a first-class beautiful man. The only person in the audience who can threaten the appearance of Chaos is this guy. So the charming idol successfully attracted the attention of Chaos. But now is a very time, otherwise Chaos would have done it a long time ago. Make up your mind, you must kill this guy in the future. The hostility between men is as simple as that. It is possible that just one more glance in the crowd will burst out the vengeance of killing the father, let alone the appearance of being threatened. Even a man can't bear it. Boss, we should retreat. Stussy looked solemn, and the situation is actually very unfavorable for them now. It can be said that the whole audience is their enemy. Although controlling celestial dragons to balance temporarily, it is too close to Marie Joy's and naval headquarters. If you insist on choosing, it is not impossible for St. Rosevard and Idalia's palace to be abandoned, because the value of the golden fruit far exceeds the lives of the two. Maybe the Razed Holy Family will give up. From the perspective of grand strategy, it is not impossible for the group of people in the Holy Land to exchange 2 celestial dragons for the Golden Emperor. Compared to the outside world, Stussy knows the people in the Holy Land better. The longer the delay, the more disadvantageous. And the will training is almost done, she must remind this man. Chaos looked back at Stussy, his expression a little uncertain. Stussy's words were like a splash of cold water to make Chaos wake up. He really didn't think about Marie Joy's. The situation was not under his control at all, he took it for granted. Now he is simply not qualified to compete with Whitebeard, Golden Lion and others. When I calmed down, I realized that I was actually a jumping clown, almost crossing the Nahi Bridge with both feet. You can't pretend to be too much, and you can't get lost. Otherwise, you will lose your life. Chaos is arrogant, and has never been brainless. The first premise must come first. It is worthy of the responsibility of appearance and wisdom in our team. Lao Sha, you should learn more from Stussy. Chaos took a deep breath, knowing it was time to retreat. But he is convinced that one day there will be a place in the broken sky. Seeing that Chaos listened to his own opinions, Stussy first breathed a sigh of relief, and then looked at the man a little speechlessly. It doesn't matter if the face value is responsible, when will wisdom be the nickname again? He didn't know what was in his mind at all, and he always played cards in an unreasonable way. But enjoy it. After all, what this man said was the truth. The empty heart seems to be filled. Very cool. Compared to Stussy's polite smile, Crocodile's face was complimented, and his eyes were full of contempt. Now there is Stussy, a woman in the team. Of course she is responsible for her appearance. He is also responsible for the appearance of the man in the team, okay. As for the responsibility of wisdom, it is purely putting gold on the face. Boss, are we really going to retreat? Crocodile regained his senses. He didn't want to leave just like that. He is now in a state of enthusiasm, high morale, and my fate, feeling that the whole world belongs to him. It's nothing more than Golden Lion, Whitebeard and others. He is Crocodile. Lao Sha, you are a little lost. Of course, Chaos could hear Crocodile's unwillingness, and the madness of Li Gang that couldn't he hide my dad. He felt that as long as he gave this guy 2 watermelon knives, he could cut from Sabaody archipelago to New World. There is a kind of lousy. It's the Aberdeen sense of sight on this street. Very bloated. Even more swollen than he was just now. When he first met, he was not like this. Why has it become like this now? Is it the youth rebellious period? After all, Crocodile is not yet 20 years old. Have it? Crocodile didn't feel lost. Stussy covered his forehead, and the two of them were mad about each other, and their colorful lives would never escape. Let's retreat first. Chaos was also very decisive, and he was never indecisive or hesitant to retreat when he should retreat. Although he was also unwilling in his heart, he did not have the ability to be equal to those people now. But this time it is not without gain. Conquerors is more refined and powerful. The most important thing is to determine the cultivation method. You only need to constantly fight the strong and experience various life and deaths to enhance your own courage. Only the true meaning of life on the edge of death can stimulate potential. Want to go? The retreat of Chaos directly made the Jelly Queen angry. At the same time, strong people and charming idols all shot, but cranes, Paluzolino, flying squirrels and others can only stop. Chaos ignored everyone and watched deeply the collision of Conquerors, the rocky mountain in the center, and then stepped up into the air without hesitation on the moonwalk. The goddess lay her palms flat, and when Chaos, Crocodile, and Stussy stood still, she turned around resolutely like Chang'e flying into the sky. But at this moment a little blue flame fell, a legendary bird bathed in blue flame, blocking the way of the goddess and releasing a powerful aura. Phoenix Marco. Looking at the divine bird, Stussy frowned. Kaios' face also sank. On the ground below, Joz, Vista and others are also eyeing, and for the future life, they are very fond of the Golden Emperor to become their brother. But before the two sides could talk, A tyrannical aura suddenly appeared, and then a violent storm hit the ocean, and all the crust that had been raised around it shattered and disappeared. The billowing smoke spread, everyone looked over. Boom. The sonorous and powerful footsteps spread throughout the audience with a sense of rhythm. Zephyr was flushed out from it, and the steam was rising with an oppressive aura. Black Arm Zephyr. The strong man, the Jelly Queen and the Crane and others separated, all looked at the man with a tough face with fear. Cool Lala. At the same time, at the center, the four of Whitebeard separated, each for their own camp, constantly colliding with conquerors. With the appearance of Zephyr, Sengoku breathed a sigh of relief first. Shiki, Newgate, Barlarik, Sabaody Archipelago is not a place where you can be presumptuous. Zephyr frowned slightly, his tone was deep. Jihaha, you are still unsmiling as always. Golden Lion put away the dead wood and Sakura's 12 long knives, took out a cigar from his arms and lit it and looked at Zephyr. To fight for another place, Bong accompany you. Zephyr cherishes words like gold, quite a bit of not accepting it and doing it, not much BB. Wait, it's really interesting. Ji Gao Jihong suddenly looked towards the horizon, an increasingly interesting expression on that evil spirit's face. Whitebeard, Golden Lion, and Sengoku all looked in the same direction. Perhaps it is because the arrival of Zephyr caused a chain reaction, so that some big names began to appear one by one. Click. The turbulent sea was swept by violent winds, and the entire sky was dark clouds billowing with lightning and thunder, and a faint figure of a dragon hovering in the clouds, just more than a dozen breaths appeared above the Sabaody archipelago. A giant god-tier dragon head protruded from the clouds, and then it changed its shape and crashed on the ground. He is tall and burly, with a shawl of thick black hair, staring at a pair of huge corners, rising naked with a dragon scale tattoo on his left arm, wearing dark green wide trousers on the lower body, a purple fur coat behind his back, holding a sharp fangs mace. A ferocious aura like a wild beast, violently and arrogantly attacked everyone. Beast Kaido. Some pirates kept swallowing, first Black Arm Zephyr, and now Kaido. Does Sabaody Archipelago gather all the monsters in New World today? Things are getting out of control. How can this kind of battle lose me? Kaido roared, carrying a mace and attacking the nearest Zephyr, unscrupulously even more rampant than Kaios. A word of disagreement does not distinguish between enemy and friend, as long as it appears in front of you, it is an enemy. Thunder 8 trigrams. Kaido, you are looking for death. Zephyr's eyes were cold, his mighty aura collided with Kaido Conquerors, without falling into the wind. The two immediately collided, and a circular shockwave spread in an instant, sending everyone close to him away again. I saw Zephyr hit the mace with a punch in the center, and a vacuum was turned upside down between the two. The goddess was pushed horizontally by air pressure, and the three of Kaios stood on their palms, looking at the faces of Kaido and Zephyr who were separated. Kaido didn't take advantage of it, on the contrary, it fell into a disadvantage in the collision. Sure enough, Whitebeard, Golden Lion, Lonely Red, Zephyr, and Sengoku are on the same level, but Kaido is relatively weak. Now these people are in their peak state, and none of them are easy to provoke. Haha. Cool. Kaido formed a fan-shaped gobi behind him, pulling his feet out of the mud, dragging his mace and watching Zephyr laugh wildly. Don't leave today. Zephyr also had a bad temper, and directly planned to send Kaido into impel down, but just turned his head and looked at the sky again when he did it. Boom. There was a sonic boom from the sky, and in the blink of an eye, a handsome uncle in a black coat appeared in the air. The exposed 10 packs of abdominal muscles bulged, and a pair of red vertical pupils scanned the audience and diffused the gentle and elegant atmosphere. Coon Lord. The color-changing King Naruto, who was originally anxious in the fringe area, looked at this man with excitement. The backstage is finally here. There was really no confidence just now, and the big figures in the center were more horrible. Unlike Marco, Flying Squirrel, and Jelly Queen, they naturally have a sense of confidence because of the presence of Whitebeard, Golden Lion, and Sengoku. The color change King and Parasparrow are different from the others. They are now cautious not to breathe, and they don't even have the qualifications to speak. Unless Big Mom or Explosive Coon Master comes personally, then they will have confidence. Now the Explosion Lord Coon is coming, so the King of Color Change in the group are hardened. The faces of Parasparrow and others are very ugly. At this time, I really hope that Big Mom can come. Haha, who I thought it was, it turned out to be you, Thunder 8 trigrams. Kaido appeared frantically and excitedly in front of the Explosion Coon Lord Gotdai, without saying anything. The mace wrapped the thunder and swept across the army, and the meeting ceremony came first. Kaido. Explosion Kun's main red pupil squinted, his short white hair was flowing, his right foot burned with billowing smoke and flames, and the strong and domineering front collided with Kaido's mace. Click, click, every black and red thunder spread, and two conquerors violently collided and stirred the situation. Explosion. The black coat behind the main kun is flying, and the right leg is full of gunpowder and flames, suddenly a bright white light. Not good. You two get out of Sabaody archipelago. Sengoku and Zephyr's eyes jumped, and they disappeared in place and appeared around the blast kun master and Kaido. The next moment a huge mushroom cloud rose into the sky. Sengoku and Zephyr waved a palm and a punch, forming an armed shockwave to force it. The explosion led to the sea. If this mushroom cloud is allowed to sweep through, Sabaody archipelago will be dangerous, at least this area will simply disappear. Explosion Kun Lord Gotdai's devil fruit ability, destruction ability is not worse than Whitebeard and others. Ha ha. A wild laugh came from the black smoke, and when everything disappeared, Kaido and the Blast Kun Master stood opposite each other, and Sengoku and Zephyr on both sides were furious, with threats in their eyes. As long as the two of them dare to do anything, the two of them will take action to suppress them. I want to fight away from Sabaody archipelago. Sengoku turned and glanced at Golden Lion, Whitebeard, Lonely Red, Kaido, and Explosion Kun Master one by one, with sharp eyes. To be honest, this situation makes Sengoku very difficult. The key is that celestial dragons are still in the hands of the Golden Emperor. Terrible. Red Line, the Holy Land Marie Joy's Office of the Highest Authority. The 5 old men were sitting or standing, all listening to the report with serious faces. The complexion is not very good. The current situation in Sabaody archipelago has threatened Marie Joy's 5 elders wearing a flat hat, with a fluffy white beard, looks a little daunting because of the scar on the corner of his left eye. Whitebeard, Golden Lion, Lonely Red, Kaido, Explosion Kun Lord, are all thugs. Do you want to clean it up? 5 elders, with long straight white hair and a long beard, frowned cautiously. These guys are too unscrupulous. They are all in Sabaody archipelago this time. If you pay a huge price, you can catch them all in one fell swoop, but the world government will definitely be hit hard. It was even devastated because of this. Some of the gains outweigh the losses. After all, these people are not young people. In addition to their own strength, there are huge forces behind them. No, it's too expensive. 5 elders, with short blonde hair and a beard, shook his head in thought. From the information sent by Sabaody archipelago, the Roswald Saint and Idalia's palace are controlled by the Golden Emperor, and may threaten Sengoku because of this. If they give up, those guys will definitely make trouble. Should they temporarily give up the Golden Emperor? The main goal now is not to capture the Golden Emperor, but to find a way to expel the Golden Lion, Whitebeard and others from the Sabaody archipelago. Don't forget that these guys were once on board. There is no guarantee that it will be united. 5 elders, with a bald face and a birthmark on his forehead, had a sullen face as if thinking of something bad, and his eyes were harsh and scary. In other words, if Sora or Garp are sent, they will be threatened to temporarily unite. This force is very powerful. But the Golden Emperor cannot fall into the hands of either of them. Especially Golden Lion. Then inform Sengoku and let go of the Golden Emperor. As long as the Golden Emperor leaves Sabaody archipelago, it is possible to eliminate the current threat of the situation. For the 5 most powerful people in the world government, 2 or 3 words will determine the result. Marine must first abandon the Golden Emperor, so that it will not cause hostility. Even if it is caught, it will be after the incident. The most important thing is celestial dragons. All factors add up, and only this plan is feasible. Notify Sora first and let him go to Sabaody archipelago personally. If these guys do not live or die, then consider destroying them at a huge price. Feasible. Agree. 1 minute later, Marineford headquarters building. Marshal's office. Sora sat behind his desk with a serious expression. The phone worm in front of him was on, and he was obviously on a call. Yes. I see. As the phone worm hung up, Kong picked up the coat of the marshal on the back of his chair and walked out of the office with a serious expression. At the same time, naval headquarters began to mobilize, and the veteran vice admiral began to act, and the final destination was Sabaody archipelago. At this time, Sabaody archipelago was still holding on. The faint smell of gunpowder, especially Kaido, a shit-chucking stick, was already overwhelmed. However, as a black cloud shot from the sky quickly, new characters appeared. It's just that there is no card face. It's Keita Curry. Unless Big Mom comes in person in this kind of scene, it is possible to be a little qualified, if it is only Katakuri, there is no right to intervene in the slightest. They don't even have the right to speak, brother Katakuri. From the faces of Perispero and others, it can be seen that the appearance of Katakuri did not make them feel at ease. Unlike the King of Color, with the appearance of the Explosion Kun Master, he raised his head and held his chest up. And Katakuri was directly ignored by Whitebeard and others. What's the situation now? Katakuri had a serious face, and Zeus, one of the three Mihos, hovered over his shoulders, feeling unprecedented pressure. He just looked at those pairs of eyes, and his hairs have exploded. He can't provoke any of these big shots. Things are very troublesome, they are all eyeing the Golden Emperor. Cracker's voice is low, and they are not qualified to intervene in the current situation. After listening to the ins and outs, Katakuri's face became heavier. Looking up at Chaos standing on the palm of the goddess, the two sides met for the first time. Chaos also looked at Katakuri at this moment, but this guy had cultivated his knowledge to predict the future, and he was very interested. Retreat. Katakuri retracted his gaze, and did not look at Chaos for too long. And very decisive. Retreat directly. Staying here is very likely to be dangerous. Perispero, Cracker, and others also nodded, obviously seeing the situation clearly. This situation won't take advantage even if the mother comes. Zeus. Yes. Zeus floating in the air suddenly grew bigger, and Perispero and others all stood on it, then flew into the air and quickly disappeared into the sky. No one is blocking. It left smoothly. As soon as the Katakuri group walked away, Kuzan brought a group of Marines onto the stage. It still didn't attract much attention, it was too weak. Let's leave too. Chaos eyelids kept twitching again, and the goddess of control wanted to continue to leave, but Queen Jelly, Marco and others would not let him leave. The reason why this kind of situation appears now, all should depend on Chaos. It can be said that it is Uzumaki's center and sweet pastry. Katakuri and others can leave easily, but he can't. Kaios had a sullen face, just looking at the crane. At the same time, the Saint Rosevard and Idalia's palace, who were in a coma, moved to the side, and the threat couldn't be clearer. Crane's face sank, and his eyes were cold. Emperor Golden, what do you want to do? Sengoku and Zephyr have also noticed. Are you the Golden Emperor? Before Chaos could answer Sengoku's questioning, Kaido carried a mace with a face of contempt, as if he looked down on Chaos's despicable means. However, Kaios didn't even look at Kaido. This ignorance is simply provocation. Very arrogant. The wind swept through, Kaido glared and shot in shock. There were many arrogant people in front of him, but the grass on the grave was stubborn after stubble. The mace wrapped around the thunder, tearing the eardrums and blasting towards Chaos in one fell swoop. Chaos had been prepared for a long time, and the wind lightly stood in front of the Rosevard Saint, making it clear that he wanted to use it as a meat shield. There is no pressure on this behavior, but someone is in a hurry. Sengoku disappeared almost when Kaido disappeared, hitting a mace with a palm, and after pushing Kaido back to the ground, his expression was very gloomy. He couldn't let celestial dragons die in front of him. The aftermath will be handed over to you. When I am safe, I will let go of these two rubbish. Lousy comes out and talks about credit. Chaos was very satisfied with Sengoku's actions, and left a sentence of God's goddess flying into the sky. He had to praise his wit. Fortunately, he controlled celestial dragons, otherwise it would not end well today. Don't want to go. The Jelly Queen would not let Chaos leave, but was stopped by Crane when she wanted to continue. At the same time Zephyr, Paluzolino, Kuzan and others also acted. They can't help it. Sengoku, Zephyr, I don't think you guys should be Marines anymore. Come and be my right hand to overthrow the world government together. For the two celestial dragons, I was so aggrieved. Golden Lion throws an olive branch, angry at Sengoku and Zephyr's rat-throwing device. These are the two men he agrees with. No matter it is Sengoku or Zephyr, they are silent. He just stood still and looked at the Golden Lion calmly. They are all firm-willed, and how can the justice they insist on can be shaken by 2 or 3 words of Golden Lion? Especially Zephyr, because his family was killed by the pirate, has already hated the pirate. Humph. Seeing Sengoku and Zephyr unmoved, Golden Lion was not surprised, after all, he had said this many times. But the Golden Emperor is about to decide. This will be related to his Wang-Tu domineering industry. Pulling out the dead wood and Sakura 12 long swords in one fell swoop, will no longer hold hands. In an instant, the 1,000-meter slashing force was like a broken bamboo, making Sengoku and Zephyr slightly angry. Shiki. Sengoku once again turned into a big Buddha, and the golden palm was pushed out in one fell swoop. The golden shockwave forcibly collided with the slash, and the sky that had gradually subsided once again flashed with lightning. Rumble. Sengoku turned into a golden rainbow and collided with the golden lion in one fell swoop, and the entire Sabaody archipelago fell apart. However, under Sengoku's intentional involvement, the two rushed all the way and started to move away from Sabaody archipelago. How can this kind of battle be without lousy? Kaido is holding a mace, he is here to fight. Immediately squatted down and chased out like a cannonball. Soon there were 3 wheels in the sky, and the extremely powerful collision. Cool lala. Whitebeard withdrew his gaze from the horizon, looked at the flying goddess, and did not do anything for some reason. He already understood that it was impossible for that guy to agree to be his son. For this, I lost interest all at once. Beloric, it's been a long time since I fought, let me see if you regress. Whitebeard held Kong Yunchi and watched the lonely red sticking with the black umbrella slash out. Jiu Gao Jihong didn't answer, but just raised the black umbrella and collided strongly with Kong Yunchi. Then the two disappeared in place, and there was a bombardment from a kilometer away in the next second, and then they got farther and farther away. Father. Joes and the others were a little helpless, the old man really wanted to come out. What shall we do now? Several people looked at Marco. Forget it. Dad has lost interest in the Golden Emperor, and we will also withdraw. Marco still knows Whitebeard very well. The reason why they came to the Grand Line was just a trip. Unlike Golden Lion, they had to catch the Golden Emperor. For the Whitebeard pirate group, treasure, power, and reputation are not very important, and the pursuit of things is obviously different from ordinary pirates. After a brief contact, the Golden Emperor is ambitious. Such a person cannot condescend. The twisted melon is not sweet and has no meaning at all. Very sloppy, but this is the Whitebeard pirates. Come and go in a hurry, do things entirely with your own heart. As Marco and others retreated, only the Explosion Kun Lord Gotdai was left on the scene. Looking at Zephyr, the Explosion Lord Kun looked at the goddess who had become a black spot, turned around and left with the King of Color changing in his party. With Zephyr beside, he couldn't succeed, so there was no sloppiness and retreat directly. Seeing the Explosion Kun Lord retreated, Zephyr and Crane looked at the Jelly Queen and others, and shot. For a time chaos and fight again. It's just that as the Golden Emperor in the center of Uzumaki, he successfully escaped again. Although it was because of the control of celestial dragons that Marine was temporarily instigated by rats, I have to say that there is still a trace of luck. For example, Whitebeard, Lonely Red, Kaido, or Explosion. If the Lord Kun is as determined as the Golden Lion, Kaios really can't escape. There is also Marine, if Chaos is cruel, he can't escape. This is luck. Boss, where are we going? At this time, thousands of meters of sky, Stussy breathed a sigh of relief. Even Chaos breathed a sigh of relief, but didn't show it. He is the boss, he must be calm and composed at all times, otherwise how to lead the team to glory. As for Crocodile, it's still a bit uncomfortable. May not realize the danger this time. Sky Island. Chaos now wants to eat a big meal and then sleep. This time the waves are full of rewards, and he needs to sort out and digest it. The most important thing he forgot when he left Sky Island last time was that he didn't bring Yinbei. He just said that every time he played, there was always something close to him. This time he remembered. BGM. How can he play without BGM? That is the soul of the face. At the same time, the shape should be changed. Sky Island? Stussy was slightly taken aback. Could it be? It's the Sky Island you think. It actually exists. What more do you guys say? Crocodile was confused. The next day, the entire sea was shaken by a piece of news. Whitebeard, Golden Lion, Lonely Red, Marine Admiral Sengoku appeared in Sabaody archipelago, and the strong collision caused the sky to collapse and break. Immediately afterwards, Black Arm Zephyr, Kaido, and Blast Kun Lord Gotdai appeared one after another. Golden Lion, Sengoku, and Kaido battled to destroy islands. Whitebeard fought with Lonely Red to destroy islands. Marine Marshal Sora finally appeared. The strong men, charming idols, Shangfei, Jelly Queen, and Lone Wolf of the Flying Pirates were captured by Marine Admiral Black Arm Zephyr, Vice Admiral Crane, and Marshal Sora. Golden Lion controlled more than a dozen small islands and 3 medium-sized islands, and rescued all the injured men and fled. Beast Kaido was hit hard and disappeared. The result of Whitebeard's battle with Lonely Red is unknown. The Golden Emperor successfully escaped. The Golden Emperor takes celestial dragons. News after news shook the sea, among which, as the Golden Emperor of Uzumaki, he became famous once again in the sea. Being able to escape successfully in the hands of so many powerful people is enough to show the Golden Emperor's ability. Now the three words Golden Emperor represent not only wealth, but also strength. Marineford, a warship docked in the port. Zephyr disembarked from the ship blankly. 3 CPOS and several marine generals were waiting in the harbor. Where are Saint Rosevard and Lord Idalia's palace? The masked CPO looked at Zephyr as he disembarked, and his words were vaguely questioning. But Zephyr just glanced at it, and then walked towards the headquarters building, ignoring it. Although the CPO can order Marine Admiral or even the Marshal at certain moments, it depends on the situation or people. 5 hours ago, news of Saint Rosevard in the Palace of Idolia came from Jaster Island, and Zephyr was dispatched to pick them up immediately. It may have been too frightened, so the two have not yet woken up. I'm back. How are things going? Entering the headquarters building, Zephyr came to the empty office. Sengoku and Suru sat on the sofa, and the three of them looked at Zephyr, who opened the door. Zephyr nodded and said nothing. That guy actually kept his promise and let it go. The crane seemed to be expected and unexpected, with a hint of surprise. Originally, they had been worried that the Golden Emperor would not keep the promise to let go of Rosevard's Saint and Idalia's palace. The most likely thing was to keep threatening them, but they did not expect that the guy not only let go of celestial dragons, but also so quickly. Know that the Holy Land has put pressure on them. If Saint Rosevard and Idalia's palace really die, then things are in trouble. Marshal, the 3 CPO adults have returned to Marie Joyce with 2 celestial dragons. At this time, a rear admiral walked in to report. Understood. Sora nodded, then looked down at the wanted order on the desk, and looked at the Sengoku trio and said, the so-called keeping promises are not credible, especially the pirates. The Golden Emperor, we still have to control it. Sora does not think differently because the pirates keeps their promises once. A thief is a thief. Need to increase the rewards of the Golden Emperor 3? Crane looked empty. The difference between mention or promotion is not very big. Offering a reward does not have much effect on the Golden Emperor, after all, it represents wealth. Even if there is no reward, some people still want to enslave him. So even if Marine raises the reward to 3 billion, 5 billion, and 10 billion, those pirates and pirate hunters who catch the Golden Emperor will not be able to give the Golden Emperor to Marine. No one will give up the wealth of the world for the sake of a mere 10 billion. The goddess controlled by the Golden Emperor alone is worth more than 10 billion Baileys. But what is certain is that the Golden Emperor is very dangerous. If this guy uses the power of money, he can easily build a great power, but so far, the Golden Emperor has only used gold to fight, and has not thought about using money to build power or manipulate the world. Holy Land Marie Joyce, 5 Elders Office. Has it been determined? 5 Elders, with a birthmark on his forehead, looked at the reporting CPO with a vague anger in his eyes. It has been determined that Stussy betrayed us. The masked CPO spoke plainly, and the deaths of several CPOs including Octopus could not stand the investigation. All signs indicate that Stussy has completely betrayed. She knows so much and needs to be cleaned up. And her master's red light district. Let CP9 handle the red light district first, and then select a CPO to take over. The remaining 4-5 elders have a cold tone. Are there any updates about pure gold? Ghost Toru 5 elders was wearing a bathrobe, looking at the reporting CPO. Not yet. The CPO shook his head first, and then continued to speak. The explosive pirates are also looking for it. Understood. You go down first. 5 elders in a flat hat waved. The moon star is scarce, and 3 days have passed in the blink of an eye. The sea has not been calm for the past 3 days, and the Sabaody archipelago incident is still getting worse and worse, and the heat will not stop without 10.5 months. 10,000 meters high in the sky, the island of God, Apayato. Stussy wore a short pink jumpsuit with a light gauze behind her hands and folded her shoulders, showing the 2 murder weapons and the waist that was gripped with a full grip, looking down at the vast and uncultivated islands and the white sea below, even if 3 days have passed. Still a little shocked. The legendary Sky Island really exists. It is recorded in the CPO archives, but it has not been confirmed. But it was too dreamy and extravagant. Especially the square at the foot and the palace behind it are all gold. And here is their base camp. That man is the god and supreme one here. Brew, brew. Just as Stussy was enjoying the rare night view, the sound of a telephone bug rang in his handbag. Hey. Master Stussy, our business has been hit, and many people have betrayed. There was a rushing female voice, which made Stussy's good mood suddenly sink. Do you know who it is? Stussy was not too surprised, or expected it a long time ago. CP9. I see, protect yourself first. Yes. Hanging up the phone worm, Stussy turned around and walked towards the magnificent palace. He needs to report to the man. From killing those CPOS and completely determined to betray the world government, she knew that the world government would clean up her sooner or later, as well as the red light district she was in charge of in the underground world. Not surprising. She also thought about being a double agent, but it was too dangerous to think about it. The high heels sounded with a sense of rhythm, and as a huge door carved with a dragon and phoenix pattern was pushed open, two men with naked torso and sweaty back appeared in Stussy's bright eyes. It's Chaos and Crocodile. Both of them are wearing sea-stone bracelets on their left wrists. Crocodile is exercising with a gold barbell, while Chaos is sitting push-ups with a huge mountain of gold on his back. Stussy came in and did not lift their heads. If Stussy escapes now, there will be a high success rate. After all, Chaos is now wearing a sea-stone, which means that the golden fruit is sealed, and the golden powder in Stussy's body has lost its effect. Even if you do it, it is possible to kill Chaos. But Stussy knew that the man's scheming was unfathomable, and that she really wanted to change a way of life. Since she had already made a choice, she would have to finish walking even if she was kneeling. She also has pride. Boss, my power has been cleaned up by the world government. Walking to the sofa not far away, Stussy didn't panic at all. Slowly, Silly took out a goblet from under the table and poured himself a glass of specialty red wine on Sky Island. Very sweet and delicious, with a light fruity fragrance, it is very suitable for ladies to enjoy. Red light district? Chaos was panting, and did not stop. Drops of sweat are like raindrops falling on the golden floor, and the muscles on the body are full of firmness and lines. After leaving Sabaody archipelago, he randomly found an island and left the Roswad Saints behind, then came to Sky Island as quickly as possible, and then slept for a day and a night. In the past 2 days, he has quickly digested the results through physical training. As for the injury, there is a life back. As long as you eat a big meal, you can quickly recover. Yes. Stussy shook the red wine in her hand and watched intently at the practice of Chaos and Crocodile. There is no room for loss in the red light district, 3 days of rest is enough. Unlocking the sea stone, the golden mountain floated on his back and landed not far away. Chaos got up and sweated. As long as Chaos is not stupid, he will not give up the red light district. After all, this power is not small. It is still in the underground world. The most important thing is the source of intelligence. Not only will he not give up, but will strengthen this power. In other words, not only the red light district, he also plans to control other underground world kings, so as to control the entire underground world, to be the only Dark Emperor. Yep. This idea only appeared in the last second. Boss. What should I do? Push horizontally. Chaos grabbed the towel on the sofa and walked out the door while wiping his sweat, apparently planning to take a bubble bath. Get ready. Go to Enies lobby tomorrow. In fact, without Stussy, Chaos is also planning to leave Sky Island tomorrow, and the idea of integrating the underground world is also behind. At present, the most important thing is to get pure gold that can delay life. When you get the pure gold, then you can clean up the underground world. Yes. Stussy frowned slightly, probably knowing Chaos' plan. Is this intending to harm each other with the world government? If you F*K me, I will F*K you? If she guessed correctly, if the world government does not regress, the man will never regress. It is estimated that after Enies' lobby is completed, he will engage in other world government forces. This kind of rogue response is really a headache for some big business forces. The typical barefoot is not afraid to wear shoes. Stussy really guessed it right. That's what Chaos thought. Simple and crude. He doesn't have time to engage in those empty-headed, wasting time. The rising sun, thousands of meters high in the sky. A piece of white clouds drifted slowly and purposefully, and the 3,000 gold silks and skirts of the goddess above the clouds fluttered. As always, it is so sacred and inviolable. But a closer look reveals that the height of the goddess has risen from 100 meters to 150 meters. The light wheel erected on the back has also doubled in size, turning slowly and full of visuals. At the feet of the goddess, Chaos stood with his hand in his hand, and that amazingly handsome aura was spreading all the time. It seems to be reborn, and the shape has changed greatly. His black vertical hair and eyes have not changed, His upper body is still bare and his 8-pack abdominal muscles are exposed, but in the area of his right chest and abdomen, the situation has turned into a fierce dragon tattoo, vividly as if crawling out of hell. Because it is golden, it seems that this ferocious dragon also reveals a noble haki. Wearing gold fangye earrings on both ears, the back is still a gold goose feather coat, and the gold ring worn by the 10 fingers is also in the style of a mini dragon. The biggest difference is that a gold light wheel is also erected on the back, just like the light wheel behind a god and Buddha. Turning has a sense of impact. The so-called people rely on clothing, Buddha relies on gold. This dress makes chaos exuberant, and his temperament is also full of arrogance, nobleness, haki, contempt, indifference, and so on. Very handsome. It's also very dick. The Stussy and Crocodile behind them didn't change much, but when they got up this morning to see the honor of chaos, they were all dumbfounded for a few seconds. Crocodile was about to move, thinking since leaving Sky Island. According to Stussy's guess, he was also thinking about how to dress up. Seeing chaos full of anger and Crocodile immersed in her own world, Stussy sighed in her heart. Stussy, do you know where music is more popular? A small branch stretched out from the goddess behind her, and a cigar was rolled up. Chaos opened his mouth and automatically sent it into his mouth, igniting with a pinch of his fingers, looking at Stussy. This time he asked Gone Fewer to collect some of the best sound shells and prepare to record some BGM. It's a matter of appearance, and it's heavy. It should be the island of music. Boss, are you interested in music? Stussy thought for a while and said, with questions in her eyes. Then go to the island of music first. There is a very important thing that needs to be resolved. Chaos spit out smoke rings, thinking about some BGM in his mind. Just like a plum cut, he was thinking about those scenes Hockey's magnificent bum, let alone a few songs. It's a pity that I only remember the melody. You can still hum. Inform the dragon, let him go to the island of music. Chaos has not forgotten the deal with Long. He already wrote down the phone number of the other party at Sabaody Archipelago, and gave him the venture capital by the way. Oh. Stussy was about to ask what was important, but when Chaos changed the subject, he had to take out a phone worm from his handbag. Brew. After almost a dozen breaths, the phone worm was connected. Mr. Long, this is Stussy, and the boss wants you to go to the island of music. Stussy is still very polite. Good. A slightly dull voice came from the phone worm, and there was no mood swing. The island of music is the must-travel island in one of the course of the Grand Line. It can be seen from the name of the island that this is an island where music prevails. 80% of the famous musicians in Dahai went out from here, or came here to learn or compete. It can be said that it is a holy place with rhythms. Also because of the rhythm, this island is extremely prosperous. Many princes and nobles, or people with status, come to the island from time to time to spend a holiday to cultivate their sentiment. It is said that there are heinous villains who were once influenced by music here. There are also musicians who have been to the Holy Land Marie Joyce to play for celestial dragons, and some have been hired directly. You can see the musicians coming and going in the streets and alleys, either carrying a violin or a flute and other musical instruments. Those senior musicians have their own elegant temperament. From time to time, there will be concerts on the island, or solo performances on the streets, or large-scale performances with hundreds of concerts. Moreover, the island has a peaceful atmosphere that makes people feel like a secluded pool. When some thugs and pirates come to the island, they will become calmer. In the blue sky, a white cloud slowly fell. The extremely high-profile fall on the street is very eye-catching. How do these three people look familiar? Wait, it seems to be. Really. It's really Golden Emperor Gaia Chaos. There is also the King of the Desert, Crocodile, and the Queen of Joy, Stussy. Needles dropped in the streets were audible, and many residents or pirates looked shocked. You must know that the heat of the Sabaody Archipelago incident has not ceased. There is a stack of newspapers on the fruit stand next to it. Even some pirates or residents have news reports about the Sabaody Archipelago incident. Several people looked at the newspaper in their hands and compared them back and forth, their expressions stiffened. Although the Golden Emperor has changed a lot, he can still be recognized. But it seems more arrogant and handsome than the pictures in the news. Especially the evil dragon tattoo and the golden light wheel turning on the back, it is impossible not to be noticed. It's too dazzling. It is no different from a light bulb in the dark. Facing all kinds of greedy, horrified, jealous, and shocked eyes, Chaos slapped his cigar and enjoyed it, as if he was the center of the world, and everything revolved around him. But, puff, Chaos took a frantic pace, behind Crocodile and Stussy half a step behind, walking towards the temple building halfway up the mountain. Wherever he went, whether it was a pirate or a resident on both sides of the street, all his eyes rolled and fell to the ground. Stussy twitched. The red lips opened slightly to say something, but in the end they still didn't say anything. The behavior of this man cannot be judged by common sense. Conquerors, which symbolizes the qualifications of the king, was just released. Glancing at Crocodile next to him. This guy wasn't embarrassed at all, but smoking a cigar with his head high, his black fur coat fluttering back and forth as he walked, and he was completely enjoying the vanity atmosphere like Chaos. Bah. Conquerors. Chaos stopped in vain, and the guy who looked like a pirate next to him was half kneeling on the ground, his face pale and supportive, and there was a pile of newspapers on the ground. An evil dragon ring flew out of his finger, biting the newspaper and returning to his hand. As Chaos continued to move, the pirate finally fell to the ground, unable to hold it. Yep. Chaos looked at the news, his face suddenly became cold. The reward for him and Crocodile did not rise, but Stussy was rewarded with 360 million. It is an attitude that Chaos still attaches great importance to offering rewards. For something as big as Sabaody Archipelago, Marine didn't even offer him a reward. He took celestial dragons abducted. This alone can add 4 to 5 billion. After all, if celestial dragons is offended, Admiral may be brought, but he is not only offended, he is also taken as a hostage. Chaos was upset for a moment. Again, what he wanted was an attitude. After reading the news, he handed it to Crocodile, who had the same expression as Chaos, and soon sank. His reward is still 560 million. When he was in Sky Island, he had expected a reward, and his best bottom line was 700 million. But now, he slid the news report to Stussy with a dark face, and Crocodile followed Chaos, his whole body exuding an aura that no one would enter. Lousy was in a bad mood inside and out. Stussy was taken aback for a moment. What was the situation of the two of them, and their expressions sank suddenly. Looking at the newspaper in his hand, it really was all about Sabaody Archipelago. In addition, she was offered a reward. The Queen of Joy Stussy, Logia, a fruitful person, offers 360 million rewards. This made Stussy's eyebrows frown, and it seemed that the world government really gave up on her. At the same time, she also knew why the two guys in front had their faces dark. If it is not bad, you should see that your reward has not risen. Speechless. Probably because of a bad mood, after walking for a few steps, Chaos directly stepped on the moonwalk and flew to the mountainside. Crocodile turned into fine sand and Stussy turned into broken clouds, and soon disappeared into the street. Wherever the three of them went, one person fell down like wheat. As the three of Chaos fell on the mountainside, the news that the Golden Emperor appeared on the Island of Music spread rapidly, even spreading to the outside world. At the moment, a concert is being held in the building halfway up the mountain, and the specifications are not very big. However, there were also hundreds of intellectuals or wealthy nobles gathered in the venue, all of them immersed in listening to the performance of the 20-odd musicians on stage. Everything is so peaceful. There was a lot of force and loftiness, but as the door burst, the performance was interrupted so that everyone looked back at the door, and many people frowned. But when the sawdust dust dispersed, the originally noisy meeting place suddenly became quiet. Those rich and noble merchants who remained slightly angry, all stiffened their faces with a trace of amazement, surprise, and horror. Yellow. Golden Emperor. Whoever has the biggest limelight on the sea recently is the Golden Emperor. The dozen or so guards in the corridor originally wanted to chase away menacingly, but stood still and did not dare to move. Obviously recognized the identity of the three people of Chaos. Facing the hundreds of pairs of sights in the audience, Chaos was cold, his body hung in the air and moved out towards the high platform. The golden light wheel on his back turned, with a sense of majesty and nobility. Humph. With a cold snort, Conquerors was like a gust of wind. For a while, except for the 20-odd musicians on the stage, all the audience who came to listen to the performance lost consciousness and collapsed on their seats. Emperor Golden. What do you want to do? Among the 20-odd musicians, an old man with white hair stood up without fear. In his opinion, the Golden Emperor was simply a rough pirate with no education and could not tolerate such behavior. In the Island of Music, he is among the top 10 musicians. Whether it is on the island or outside, it is highly respected. Although this concert is not a formal concert, it can be destroyed by the Golden Emperor like this, and it is no different from hitting him in the face. Maybe used it. So the tone was raised and questioned, as if he was scolding or threatening. You guys, play me 4 pieces. Chaos spoke imperatively, in a cold tone. Don't think about it. Now you should be responsible for your behavior. Puff. The white-haired old man's words turned into afterimages and shot out. The huge wind and waves drove the remaining 23 musicians to the ground, and his calm expression suddenly lost control. Turning his head to watch the white-haired old man slipping from the cracked wall of the spiderweb, his head was beaten and he couldn't live like that. I don't respect the old and love the young, especially idiots who dare to point fingers at me. Chaos was in a bad mood, and the white-haired old man was still arrogantly questioning, completely failing to see the situation. Such people have been lost in the flattery. Go and find some of the best musicians on the island. A golden throne fell thousands of meters above the sky, and finally smashed the roof and appeared behind him. After sitting on it, Chaos waved to Crocodile and Stussy. Crocodile and Stussy shrugged, and disappeared into flying sand and broken clouds one after another. Next I will hum a few melodies, I hope you can make them out. Chaos tilted Erlang's legs, his left hand subconsciously flicked Fungy's earrings. 23 musicians climbed up from the ground, and no one dared to question. They are professional in arranging the instruments in a proper way and playing rhythm. First, let's have a simple one. Chaos snapped his fingers and began to hum the interlude of Heavenly Dragon, which was the BGM when Xiao Feng appeared on the stage. When I thought that when I first saw the 8 dragons, the bum that Xiao Feng came with when he appeared on the stage was full of pride. As soon as the battle song rang, one palm, uninhibited, and invincible, no one can slap me. Yep. After he finished humming, Chaos saw 23 musicians looking at him, with astonishment and disbelief in his eyes. The slightly low level of grace brought all the musicians back to their senses, and then they began to talk to each other. At first he was scrupulous about Chaos, but when Chaos kept silent, the discussion became louder and louder, and then he even ignored Chaos directly. Although this melody is very short, it is very different from what they have seen before. For musicians, it is simply a poppy, great attraction. 10 minutes later, the first soundtrack began. The effect is not satisfactory. However, as Chaos continued to add those feelings, the tune slowly began to improve. It can only be said that these musicians are worthy of being professional. Seeing and hearing colors cover most of the island. Crocodile and Stussy have captured more than a dozen male and female musicians, all over 60 years old. Many battles have taken place for this reason. After all, these musicians are all treasures, and there are still many guards to protect them. With these more than 10 people joining, the tune was finished almost 2 hours later. There is no difference from the original song, and it feels very familiar. After recording Zheng'er Bajing with Yinbei, Chaosi's mood began to turn from cloudy to fine. With a wave of his hand, a jingle of gold coins rained from the sky, which was a reward. Very well, worthy of being a professional musician. Next is the second song. Chaos spit out smoke rings, very satisfied. You two go and solve those troubles, don't disturb the creation of the musicians. When Chaos was about to hum the second BGM, a large number of people appeared outside the venue, including pirates, guards of the music island, and even marine. Crocodile and Stussy nodded, and had no choice but to disappear into the venue again. Come on, let's continue. Chaos asked the musicians not to be nervous and began to hum the second BGM melody. League of Legends, welcome to Plain Turf, welcome to Manatee. This song can't help being reminiscent of the passionate and uninhibited years. It is exhilarating and enthusiastic. Even if there is only a drop of blood, you can fight for thousands of 10,000 years. At the beginning of the game, this song must be selected. More than 30 musicians all frowned, and they began to discuss again. And the look at Chaos was obviously different. It was an excited look for discovering talent and treasure. The melody of this song is obviously more passionate than the first one, and they all have an impulse. This piece must be played. At this moment, there is passion for creation in the venue, but a fight outside the venue. Crocodile and Stussy acted together, and no one could break through the defense. After a lot of corpses were lying on the ground, everything was quiet. As the dusk fell, a passionate tune suddenly came out in the venue. The tune was unprecedentedly novel. Chaos sat on the throne with his eyes closed, his chin in one hand, enjoying this familiar and memorable tune, and the corners of his mouth couldn't stop being drawn. He still somewhat underestimated the professionalism of these musicians. The League of Legends, welcome to Plain Turf, welcome to the Star of the Manatee, was tuned out before dark. If it goes well, the remaining 2 tunes can be tuned out in one night. Flap. After the performance, Chaos clapped his hands, very satisfied. And those musicians in their 70s and 80s were more excited than Chaos. They felt a breakthrough. This perfect tune is so exhilarating that it can't help but remind them of their youth and frivolous time. How many years have it been? They felt the passion again. The man in front of him is a genius. If you are a musician, you must go further than them. Now everyone's eyes looking at Chaos are full of blazing heat. It is no longer the panic and worry at the beginning. Prepare for the third song. Chaos didn't waste time, and now these people are full of passion. It's the time to go all out. Battle Cry BGM. Flight of the Silver Bird. This is the third bum prepared by Chaos. This song gives people the feeling that it is magnificent and majestic, such as the surging river is unstoppable, and contains a trace of tragic and passionate. Even in the face of thousands of troops and horses, it is invincible. The last one is the famous war BGM. Victory. This is a song with magnificent momentum and passionate spirit. Even if you close your eyes, you can see all kinds of grand war scenes in your mind. It can make countless people excited and want to take up weapons and rush to the battlefield. Its melody is high, tragic, shocking, passionate. The battle song sounded, and everything was invincible, as if everyone present was rubbish, and the entire universe belonged to me. There is no doubt that these two BGMs are more meaningful than Chao Feng's BGM and League of Legends BGM. At present, Chaos has thought of these 4 songs. When he gets tired of these 4 BGMs, he is considering replacing them with new ones. Time flows so quickly. As the sun rises, a ray of sunlight shines from the hole in the roof, and the last note comes to a perfect end. Chaos put away 4 yinbei, with a smile on his face. The musicians are not tired at all, and their spirits are better than that of Chaos. I have been completely absorbed in these 4 BGM tunes. I am very satisfied. Chaos snapped his fingers, a rain of gold coins fell on the stage, and then the golden throne flew outside. After an hour. After eating. An open-air coffee shop in the island of music. Chaos is watching 8 Trigrams magazine while drinking coffee. There is a lot of news in the fashion industry, entertainment industry, 8 Trigrams, etc. Don't think that One Piece is only pirates or fights and kills. All kinds of entertainment are not much different from the previous world. Models, singers, and stars all exist, and the entertainment and cultural industry is also very prosperous. Next to Crocodile leaning against a chair with his eyes closed, Stussy was eating cakes very ladylike. Now Chaos is waiting for someone. Almost 10 minutes later, a gust of wind condensed and formed, and the dragon still looks like a draped head. It's a bit slow. Chaos put down the coffee cup. If it weren't for the BGM recording to make him feel comfortable, the dragon's slowness would definitely not shake his face. Something needs to be dealt with. Long just explained it casually, and then sat in the last empty seat. Snapped. Chaos didn't waste time either, snapped his fingers, and fell in vain thousands of meters into the sky. Under the sun, the golden colors seemed to be like a treasure mountain. The people all around were watching here in secret, watching the golden mountain the size of a house. One by one, breathing aggravated the upwelling of blood. Birds eat the dead, people die for money, and people with insufficient concentration abound. Some pirates or thugs began to surround themselves. Everyone only had the golden mountain in their eyes, and even if God came to stop them now, they would still be slaughtered. Humph. Long coldly snorted, this tuft of gold belongs to him. Some young people dare to peek, and they are overwhelmed. His eyes stared slightly, and a wave of air radiated out, and there was no one standing in a radius of 100 meters. Chaos drank coffee lightly. Stussy and Crocodile didn't feel much, let alone the dragon's conquerors did not face them, even if the face would not fluctuate much. Ever since the collision of the 4 super-strong conquerors by Sabaody archipelago, coupled with the usual Sao's blinding conquerors, the 2 have begun to be immune to conquerors. I still have something to do, so let's do that first. Conquerors disappeared, and the dragon looked at Chaos and didn't intend to confess the wine. The tone has already been set at Sabaody archipelago, and there is no need to say anything else. Chaos just waved his hand. Soon after the dragon disappeared with the golden mountain, the 3 of Chaos after drinking coffee also left the island of music. After the 3 of them left, many pirate groups landed, but they all went empty. Although the Sabaody archipelago incident was a big show for Chaos, there are still a lot of people who want to catch him. Enies lobby, also known as the island that never sleeps. It is an institution set up by the world government. Inside it is a nominal court. Anyone detained to Enies lobby must have been identified as a prisoner. Prisoners will only be escorted through those empty courts, and finally will reach a cold and huge steel gate, the gate of justice. The prisoners who pass through this gate generally have no return, symbolizing the world government absolute justice. Because there are only two places that can be reached after going to the sea from the Gate of Justice, one is the Naval Headquarters Marineford, the world government's main combat force, and the other is the torture room and the death penalty platform, the deep sea that imprisons the world's all wicked prisoners. The Great Prison Impel-Down Impelton. The Tower of Justice is the office and deliberation hall of government officials. Above the tower is the flag of world government. The current supreme officer is Spandane, and the future son Spandam will take over. Behind the Island of Justice, there is a large playground. You can see that many children are taking over training, ranging from 4 to 17 or 18. And the one who taught them was a CPO. This CPO was not someone else, who was the one who escorted the Heavenly Gold at the time, and was fined here to train CP9 because of poor work. As for CP9 during this period, they were all sent out to perform tasks to clean up the red light district of Stussy's forces. In other words, Enies' lobby is actually very empty now. 4 or 5 familiar little figures can be seen among the children who have been trained. They are still too small now. At this moment, they were sweating and practicing physical fitness. The sky was scorching. Many children were dehydrated or had heat stroke, but the CPO and several adjutants on the stage were unmoved. The daily practice time is fixed. If you die within the specified time, you will die if you die. There will be no mercy, even if it's just some 4 or 5-year-olds. The one that will survive, or even stand out in the future, is CP9. One step further is CPO. Click. There was almost no sign. The original scorching sun's weather, in vain, black clouds rolled and thunder flashed. The entire Enies lobby was covered in black, and gusts of wind rolled up, and the black and red lightning seemed to tear the sky apart. Immediately afterwards, there was a magnificent aura that couldn't help people's blood, full of lofty, tragic, and shocking war songs, like an invisible meteor shower, spreading deafeningly throughout the entire Enies lobby. Almost immediately, the entire Enies lobby, whether it was government officials or civilians, all looked up at the dim sky. As the high melody came to its climax, everyone couldn't stop thinking of an epic war scene of thousands of troops fighting. But it was even more shocking. I saw the dark clouds filled with black and red lightning, starting to spin like Uzumaki in vain, and the sacred tip of the sword in the center began to fall slowly. The people on Enies lobby were all dumbfounded. Can only stare at all this dumbfounded. They can't describe what they see before them. Because it was too shocking and subversive. The visual and impact make them unable to think. The atmosphere is constantly being squeezed, and the dense black and red thunders are constantly roaring. Time seems to be slow at this moment. The golden giant sword that reaches the sky and the earth reveals the whole picture. The sword body is carved with the sun, moon and stars, and the mountains and plants on the other. This is a great sword full of sacred and noble. At this moment, it seemed to come from outside, falling towards the Tower of Justice in one fell swoop. Cooperate with that war BGM. Victory. It's like you can pierce the sky. Rumble. The golden sword is unmatched. At the moment it collided with the judicial tower, the latter immediately began to collapse, and for a while, the ruined walls turned into meteorites and fell towards the surrounding cliffs and waterfalls. The billowing dust covered all vision, only the sacred sword stuck on the ground. Cough, cough, cough. The government staff in the Tower of Justice suffered numerous casualties on the spot. But they are already dumbfounded. On the training square, CPO looked at the golden giant sword inserted into the ground close at hand. The expression under the mask gradually stiffened. And those children all sat on the ground with their mouths open for a long time, unable to return to their senses. The scene before them was too subversive for them. Maybe you will never forget it for a lifetime. The tragic and lofty BGM voice grew louder and louder, and 3 figures slowly fell into the rotating firmament Uzumaki. The headed hockey is awe-inspiring, and the golden light wheel turning behind makes this man full of sacredness and dignity. On both sides of it is an arrogant man in a fur coat, and a woman with elegance and maturity in a short dress. The 3 fell on the hilt, just looking down at the audience. This set of faces is not just high profile. Background special effects, BGM, bells and whistles, the impact of the combination of 3 into 1, poked the worldview of those people on Enies lobby. These 3 people are gods. Stussy's skirt flew up, her right hand was placed on her chest and she was pinching the lady's bag, and her left hand slid the hair from her forehead to the base of her ears, and she could feel shocking gazes after another. She has excellent eyesight. I don't know why there is some enjoyment in my heart, as if the whole world is revolving around her. She is the beam of light in the dark night, illuminating everything. She is unique. This seems to be really alive. Gradually, she was a little lost. The Golden Emperor. From the time that Sacred Giant Sword appeared, CPO had already guessed who it was. The reason why he is being punished here now is thanks to this man. Lao Sha. Let him kneel in front of me and give you 10 minutes. Chaos recognized the CPO, and his breath was a bit familiar. Crocodile was obviously the same, and the flying sand disappeared as soon as Chaos spoke. This guy was not dealt with last time, but he was deeply despised. Today is the time to wash away the shame. Stussy. Stussy. Chaos looked sideways at Stussy, and yelled twice. This woman was in a daze at this time. Ah. Boss. What's the matter? Stussy regained her senses, her expression a little bit wrong. He didn't dare to look at Chaos, his eyes dodged. What happened just now? Why'd I have feelings of enjoyment? She has always thought this kind of behavior is naive, but just now. Stussy's head is a little messy. Go and get rid of those two guys. Chaos didn't ask Stussy, just in a daze. It's normal. After all, women always have so many days, he understands. So I didn't take it to heart. The two giants who pointed at the second main entrance were Oimo and Cassie, who were deceived by the world government. They were carrying a large number of guards and rushing here with their weapons. Stussy nodded and disappeared as a broken cloud. At the same time, Marie Joyce received the news as soon as possible. Bang. What does he want to do to openly provoke the world government? In the 5 elders' office, only 5 elders wearing a flat hat was present. At this moment, hearing the report from the phone bug, the calm mood of dealing with government affairs suddenly became a little angry. The Golden Emperor actually openly shot Enies' lobby. This is simply hitting the face of the world government. Let Sengoku go and catch him for me. I don't have to catch him alive whenever necessary. The behavior of the Golden Emperor this time has seriously provoked the world government. Previously, only because of the value of the Golden Emperor, the world government sent Marine to shoot, but now it is different. No matter what, those who blatantly provoke the world government must be severely punished. Angrily hung up the phone worm, and Naval Headquarters Marineford, Sengoku also received notifications. At this moment, Enies' lobby, time has passed 10 minutes. Crocodile also beat the CPO in 10 minutes, but it was also injured. The sacred great sword transforms into a goddess, standing in the air with 3,000 gold silks and flying skirts, and most of the Enies' lobby can be seen. Anyone who has read the news about this matter knows that it is the Golden Emperor Gaia Chaos who is here. Crocodile dragged CPO to Chaos like a dead dog, with disdain in his eyes. Last time it was evenly matched, but this time he was easily defeated. He has become stronger during this time, but this CPO is still standing still and has not accompanied him to become his opponent. Rubbish. Go back and tell 5 elders that the red light district is my power. If I dare to reach out, I will cut off all the minions of the world government. Chaos stood on the ground, his eyes squinted as if he was looking at an ant. The demeanor has more layers and connotations than Crocodile's disdain. Crocodile is the same as before, arrogant, and arrogant is the nature of the explosion of wealth. He is not the same, now from his bones reveals cultural literacy and gentle quality. The realm has been improved by 1 level. The first layer you think is actually already in the atmosphere. You openly provoke the world government, and you will not end well. Blood was constantly bleeding under the CPO mask, and he looked up at Chaos with some difficulty, his eyes sharp and calm. It's not the first time to provoke. Chaos was full of contempt. He was already provoking the world government when he robbed the heavenly gold. But so what? He is still alive and well. As for the hunt? He longed to be hunted down. Even if the world government doesn't mess with him, he will find a way to mess with the world government. It's just a matter of time. What he enjoys is excitement and heartbeat. Only when you are infinitely close to death can you realize the embrace of love. Click. Boom. Click. In the distance, black clouds rolled and thunder continued to smash down. Below it, 2 giants and numerous Enies lobby guards, all fell to the ground with black smoke. There is even a faint smell of meat. Standing in the air, Stussy used the power of Yunyan fruit to form a continuous and frenzied bombardment of thunderclouds. These few days are enough for her to use Yunyan fruit initially. And Chaos also gave a lot of opinions. However, with the thunderclouds she has developed, they still cannot completely knock down the 2 giants, but with Stussy's physical skills, the 2 giants are obviously still on fire. So abruptly, he was kicked and fainted. Very violent. Boss, it has been resolved. The broken clouds condensed into one body, and Stussy appeared beside Chaos, looking at the CPO who fell on the ground without much expression. Then go. Chaos turned his head to look at the training field, disappeared and appeared in the palm of the goddess. Crocodile and Stussy followed down, and then the goddess disappeared into the clouds in the blink of an eye. Along with it, there is a BGM that is getting farther and farther away. It can be said to be full of anger. It's a pity that Rob Lucci is still too young, and he doesn't have time to develop it. It takes too much time and energy. As the dark clouds in the sky gradually dissipated, and the warm and soft sunlight reappeared, Enies' lobby was left with only ruined walls, fainted or dead bodies everywhere. The Golden Emperor is too rampant, and there must be news reports tomorrow. Blubrew, 1,000 meters high, the voice of a telephone bug rang in Ms. Stussy's bag. After connecting, he said a word of grace, then hung up. Boss, my 3 subordinates have reached the city of 7 waters. As the boss in the red light district, Stussy naturally has trusted men, otherwise how to manage such a huge industry. There were a lot of trusted subordinates, but after the world government cracked or wooed, only these 3 were left. Be regarded as the most trusted subordinate. As early as when he left Sky Island, Stussy had already notified. She needs to meet the last time. For example, how to rectify next, or put the industry master in the hands again. Of course, this may also be a conspiracy. For example, these 3 subordinates also betrayed Stussy. The city of 7 waters has buried a large number of world government powerhouses. The purpose is to let the 3 of Chaos throw themselves into the net. Can be trusted? Chaos lit a cigar, spit out a smoke ring and narrowed his eyes. He will definitely not let go of the forces in the red light district. However, it must be Stussy how to operate or manage it. And he only needs to control Stussy, simple and clear. Uncertain. Stussy shook his head, obviously not sure. After all, people's hearts are changeable. Even Chaos does not trust Crocodile and Stussy 100% now, and always keeps a hand in secret. Go and see. Chaos was never afraid of things, on the contrary, he was a little bit ready to move. If there was an ambush, he would have to see those Gyuki snake gods. In addition, sooner or later he will go to the city of 7 waters, and the Pluton drawings still have a lot of appeal. Yes. A piece of white cloud began to change direction and quickly flew towards the city of 7 waters. At the same time, the city of 7 waters. On the top floor of a tall hotel, the soft sea breeze is blowing the curtains. On the balcony chair sits a man with short dark red hair, wearing a black suit and tie, sipping coffee with Erlang's legs up, and a leather shoe quilt of at least 40 yards. The amount of oil rubbed. In the room behind this man, there were 3 very sexy women lying on the ground, but they looked very bad. Their beautiful and charming faces were now pale, and blood was still bleeding in their mouths and noses. In addition to the 3 women on the floor in the room, there were also 3 masks and white cloaks sitting on the sofa beside them. As well as several different characters, it can be seen from the temperament that they are agents. This kind of scene, you can see that it is CPO and CP9. The identities of the 3 women lying on the ground are also ready to come out. On the other side, Enies' lobby. Sengoku stood on the ruins first. His face was as ugly as he could be, and his eyes were still angry. Even if he came as quickly as possible, it was still too late. The Golden Emperor has already left. Now that the ruins of the Tower of Justice have turned into rubble, the staff in it have suffered heavy losses, and the Golden Emperor is blatantly slapping his face. After checking with the CPO, Sengoku calmed down and dialed the phone worm. Brew. I'm Sengoku. How is the result? A low voice came from the phone worm. It was 5 elders. It's too late, the Tower of Justice has been destroyed. As soon as Sengoku finished speaking, there was an uncontrollable anger on the other end of the phone. The Golden Emperor is looking for death. Sengoku was expressionless, and after a moment of silence, he continued to speak. The purpose of the Golden Emperor is to want the world government to give up attacking the red light district. If the world government does not stop, Enies' lobby is just the beginning. Sengoku somewhat euphemistically told 5 elders what he had learned from the CPO. As for CPO, I have already gone for treatment. The phone worm was silent, only breathing came. 5 elders did not continue to be angry, but calmed down. Thinking about gains and losses. As a powerful person in the world government, it is impossible to act on impulse. Although the Golden Emperor is threatening, it has to be said that it has some effects. Barefoot is always unafraid to wear shoes. When hurting each other, the one who loses the most must be wearing shoes. Sengoku, I'll give you 1 month to catch the Golden Emperor, even if it is dead. No one can still be alive after provoking the world government. Senran's killing intent came from the phone worm, and 5 elders did not intend to compromise, and it was impossible to compromise. The Golden Emperor should not openly slap the world government in the face. The current Golden Emperor does not have the size and power to allow the world government to take a step back. Unless there are sufficient benefits. As long as there are enough benefits, no grievances can't be resolved. Understood. Hanging up the phone bug, Sengoku frowned. Having dealt with the Golden Emperor twice, although that guy is arrogant, he is not the kind of brainless guy. It's a little troublesome. Click. As dusk approaches, there are many red burning clouds hovering in the sky, which is a rare good weather. I don't know when the brazed cloud began to turn into a black cloud, and at the same time the thunder and wind roared. The clear sky changes as it changes. This is the weather that the City of Water has never seen before. Because it's too weird. Click. Doda's raindrops continued to fall, and the storm suddenly turned dark. What happened? Go home and pick up your clothes. Are the gods of water coming? The time is wrong. Residents living in the City of Water looked at the sky full of thunder and torrential rain, all with doubts. As we all know, the City of Water is hit by the huge tsunami of the gods of water every year. Therefore, there are quite a lot of waterways in the City of Water. In addition to transportation on the flat surface, there are also waterways that extend from the heights of the City of Water. It is completely a maritime city. According to the normal time, the gods of water should be a few months away. Something is wrong. Because the sky of thunder and lightning began to undergo tremendous changes, that scene was terrifying. Click, boom. Strips of white thunders slashed down, and violent storms swept the City of Water as much as they wanted. In vain, the endless clouds began to rotate like a black hole, and finally tilted slowly to form a giant figure. Lifting the huge boundless head, slowly stood up one after another. The soft 3,000 hairs hung upside down like a galaxy waterfall, the palace dress ribbons danced wildly, and the wheel behind it seemed to be a black light wheel that encircled the whole world, rolling endlessly. This is an enlarged version of the goddess, composed of black clouds across the sky. It was full of majesty like gods and monsters, as if the sun, moon and stars could be picked off at will. Everywhere you look is part of her. The entire City of 7 Waters was in its shadow, and the black cloud's body was bathed in thunder and controlled the wind and rain. Big. Big boundless. The residents or pirates of the entire City of 7 Waters all looked up and were stunned, shocked by this scene to make it hard to think. It seems that it only takes a slap to cover the entire City of 7 Waters. God. Is God. Countless residents knelt on the ground. Even some fierce pirates are kneeling on the ground and shaking at this moment. That. What is that? Regarding the City of 7 Waters as the center, the sea area of hundreds of miles and thousands of miles, whether it is a pirate ship or a merchant ship, all stared at the City of 7 Waters in terror. Even if they were so far away, they could see the goddess bathed in lightning. Which direction seems to be the City of 7 Waters? Damn it, change direction now. What kind of monster is this? I won't go to the capital of 7 Waters after leaving here. The timid had been frightened and collapsed to the ground, and the timid also swallowed. Someone also filmed this scene. Come yet. At this time, several CPOS stood together on the top floor of the hotel and on the balcony, looking at the vast goddess above their heads. They did not panic like ordinary people. They can see the essence at a glance. That huge body is entirely composed of black clouds, but it is undeniably very visual. The size and sacred posture alone can scare ordinary people to half their lives. Coupled with the knowledge that Stussy ate the fruits of Logia, and that she looked like the goddess of the Golden Emperor, it was not difficult to guess who they were waiting for came. As several CPOS have guessed, this fancy scene was made by Stussy with so many fruits. As early as when Sabaody Archipelago photographed Yunyan fruit, Chaos had already thought of this moment. Yunyan fruits, used to dress up background effects, don't be too cool. Use whatever look you want. The goddess of heaven and earth in front of you is just an appetizer, and in the future it can be shaped into the vast scenes in past novels such as Tiangong and 9 Dragons Pulling Coffin. In Chaos's view, Yunyan fruit is also a natural disaster fruit in addition to the background special effects cowhide. Yes, it is the ability to be equal to the large-scale natural disasters such as lion fruit, shock fruit, and frozen fruit. For example, the goddess created by Stussy now, with a slap down, lightning flashes, storms roar, and the power contained is not as light as a feather, but heavier than Mount Tai. The clouds in front of us are not ordinary white clouds, but thunderclouds, cumulonimbus clouds, etc. If Stussy develops the Yunyan fruit deep enough, by then turning all the clouds, it can completely change the world's climate. Just to make an analogy, if Stussy disperses the layers of clouds in the water city now, then the entire Seven Waters city will face the baking of the sun, and the temperature will rise linearly. 1,000 miles in a short period of time will not be an exaggeration. Or turn the vast cloud layer like a tornado. When it reaches a certain size, there is no island or even power to stop it. These are the development directions that Chaos proposed to Stussy. Chaos always believes that the world will become more colorful because of his arrival. Call out. The sky broke in vain, and the two black spots gradually magnified, without giving people a chance to react. With the debris and dust flying around, there was a sound of golden leather and the sound of high heels stepping on the ground. Unbiased just fell on the street of the hotel. Stussy is carrying a pink lady's bag, still in the short pink jumpsuit, and her short golden curly hair flying in the wind. Her delicate face is just smeared with lipstick. Her ears wear long gold earrings, 2 murder weapons and yin-yang the waist and long white legs in a grip are still full of temptation. The only difference is that Stussy is holding a white ribbon in her hands, standing behind her back and flowing smoothly. It is such a flowing white ribbon that makes Stussy's temperament and charm rise straight. Phi silk. Commonly used with ancient women. It was stolen by Chaos, as is the case with the goddess. Stussy also used it for some reason. It was useless in Enies' lobby before, but in a blink of an eye I changed my look. Bystanders clear the authorities and fans, and Stussy has gradually fallen. Has begun to care about those fancy external things. Of course, Crocodile is also pondering this issue. If Stussy hadn't changed his look, he hadn't noticed it. Chaos and Crocodile did not appear. Together with Stussy was a 3-meter-high golden warrior, but his appearance was no different from Chaos himself. The earrings, the golden goose feather coat, and the golden halo turning on the back are all exactly the same. It can be said that it is the gold version of Chaos. Standing alone in front of the hotel, looking up at the balcony where the CPO is located, just the head of the CPO wearing a black suit and short dark red hair also looked down. Seeing this CPO, Stussy's face changed and became a little heavier. Obviously they knew it. The golden warrior was full of metallic coldness and flew off the ground to the balcony. Stussy folded his mind and followed behind him. Stussy, long time no see. As the golden warrior and Stussy landed on the balcony, CPO still had coffee, just glanced at the golden warrior. Stussy was silent and did not speak. Why, don't you introduce the introduction? The 3 CPOs in the room came out, all unmasked and looked at Stussy coldly. 2 men and 1 woman. Boss, this is the CPO of the same period as me, saber-toothed tiger, squirrel, macaque, pangolin. Stussy spoke blankly. The CPO with coffee is codenamed saber-toothed tiger. The strength ranks 2nd in the Stussy squad at the same time. The ability of the opponent is known from the code name of the saber-toothed tiger, Zone Ancient Species Saber-toothed Tiger Form Ability. Grandmaster 6 styles, Life Return and 2-color hockey. The female CPO called Squirrel is the same except that Devil Fruit is in the form of Rat Squirrel Fruit and Squirrel. The macaque is a thin man whose ability is Zone Macaca Fruit Macaque shape. And the burly pangolin CPO. As for the 5 CP9s in the house, I don't know them at all. It was Guy Simi, Lily, and Cocos who fell to the ground with serious injuries, seeing Stussy appear, and a glimmer of expectation and excitement appeared in the originally apathetic eyes. These 3 people are one of Stussy's most trusted people. This is the man who made you betray. He didn't even dare to show up. Squirrel CPO is a very petite woman, looking at the golden warrior with cold eyes. Stussy, this time it was the 10th to solve your problem. He is very angry. Catch the golden emperor, you can also atone for your merits. Macaques and pangolins opened their mouths one after another. It can be found that when the macaque reported the code number 10, Stussy's eyes shrank with a trace of panic. Can I understand that you are threatening the most beautiful face in my team? The coldness was full of metal, as if the voice of a tractor stuck in the throat was spitting out of the golden soldier, and those golden eyes looked at the squirrels without any emotional fluctuations. Stussy, who was initially a little flustered, was a little stunned when he heard the words of the golden warrior. She loves to hear these words, especially the most beautiful face value. Although the man often said this, Stussy thought it was just a polite remark. But now it seems to be the truth. There are also some guards. Should we like it or should it be better? Stussy sighed in her heart. Now that she has chosen, there shouldn't be any thoughts of entanglement and regret. At least this man still respects her very much. It didn't call and bully its subordinates at will like other pirate groups, and there were no restrictions on freedom. The only drawback may be that it is too arrogant and high profile. And it's very inconsequential. In addition, following this man, there is really no guarantee of life. Either he is dying or he is on the road to dying, walking tightrope all the time, and even talking about understanding the true meaning of life. A guy with a hidden head and bare tail. Although Squirrel CPO is a female, her temper is abnormal. It is hard to tell that it is a squirrel fruit capable person. She shot directly. Her slender fingers covering the armed color struck the golden warrior's head like lightning, and there was no trace of the attack at all. When a gust of wind dissipated, 2 finger holes appeared in the golden warrior's head. Sure enough, it's just a puppet. Looking at the hollow head of the golden warrior, Squirrel even more dismissed it. In her opinion, the golden emperor was a coward, and he didn't even dare to come. Careful. Just when Squirrel was disdainful of contempt, the saber-toothed tiger, who was drinking coffee slowly, changed his face in vain, but it was too late. Puff. With the sound of flesh and blood being pierced by a sharp weapon, the squirrel's body paused, looking down at his heart. A gold spike pierced through and dripping with blood, and the sharp spike on the back was even 1 meter long. And this golden spike was the right hand of the golden warrior. The golden warrior stood on the spot from beginning to end, but his right hand suddenly became a spike and grew in one fell swoop, penetrating the body of the squirrel with lightning speed. It is like civilian players and Krypton Gold players each holding a 1-meter weapon in a duel. At first, the civilian players jumped up and down to show all kinds of fancy tricks, but who would have thought that the 1-meter weapon of the Krypton player would become 10 meters in vain? The battle ended with a single move. Boom. Saber-toothed tigers, macaques, and pangolins reacted quickly and took the first shot. The golden warrior's knee was pushed up to block the saber-toothed tiger's right foot, his left hand was raised to block the macaque's big foot, and the pangolin's attack was blocked by Stussy. The entire hotel was shocked, and the strong wind and waves tore the entire balcony. With the splashing gravel golden warrior and Stussy, they withdrew and retreated to the street in one fell swoop. Cure the squirrel. The saber-toothed tiger's face was ugly, and the afterimages left on the spot disappeared. There are also macaques. Only the pangolin remained, but at this moment the hotel ceiling shattered, and 6 Paz golden warriors appeared in the room one after another, 5 attacking 5 CP9s, and the last one reached out and spread out 3 tributaries, engulfing Guy who fell on the ground. Simi, Lily, and Cocos disappeared in a blast. It's cruel. A piece of fine sand condenses into a body. Crocodile is wearing a black fur coat, combing his big back and dangling a cigar, still with that arrogant and contemptuous look. The biggest difference is that there is a swastika made of sand on the back, twice the size of Crocodile and still flowing. It's similar to Chaos's golden light wheel, but the shape is different. And the swastika is fluid. It seems more bells and whistles than Chaos, but it is undeniable that Crocodile's temperament has been upgraded to a notch. Those who are arrogant these days must dress up well, otherwise the grades are not enough. Yep. This outfit is also an opinion given by Chaos. The king of the desert. The pangolin let go of the squirrel, the latter's breath had begun to weaken, and he almost swallowed it. Because just now, when the golden spike penetrated the heart, more than 10 golden thorns protruded from it, which means that the squirrel's internal organs were actually penetrated. Not just the heart. Even Zone can't hold it, unless devil fruit awakens. Coupled with the appearance of Crocodile at this time, the result is doomed. Boom. The violent wind pressure lifted Crocodile's fur coat, and the pangolin's right hand turned into a claw-covered armed color, only 1 centimeter away from Crocodile's eyes, but it was blocked by Crocodile's hand. The pangolin quickly transformed, and its back began to climb with grayish-brown scales, as if wearing an armor. Just looking at it, it was as hard as iron, and a tail grew out of its tail. Wow. Smoke rings from Crocodile's nostrils, bursting into flying sand and appearing in the air. The swastika on the back turned, his eyes squinted with disdain. Zone? Looking at the pangolin maintained in the human beast form, Crocodile really didn't recognize that it was Zone. Shave. The pangolin appeared in vain, with its right foot covered with scaly and armed color, swept towards Crocodile's head with a burst of air, and the shot was quick and decisive. Crocodile was still the color of contempt, and his right hand blocked it in front of him. The next moment it turned into a fine sand cannonball. It smashed through the house and rolled on the street in one fell swoop, flying debris along the way, and finally elementalization appeared on the ground. The original color of contempt has disappeared, and it is obvious that this kick made him suffer a little. Otherwise, his face will not be a bit stiff and ugly. This time B is a bit flawed. Call out. The air tore, 2 tempest kick flew down from the head, crocodile disappeared in place, and the street was easily torn into 2 gaps like tofu in the next second. A large number of residents around were screaming and fleeing. Afterimages continued to explode, and the pangolin quickly appeared using the shave. The sharp claws flashed cold light and scratched Crocodile's neck. The strong wind and waves spread out. Crocodile bit the cigar and turned into the sand with the right hand to form a diamond knife. The ground under the feet of the 2 people kept cracking and tearing out cracks, and then they opened a distance and held each other at the same time. To be honest, the current environment is very unfavorable for Crocodile. Let us not say that the sky is raining because of self-inflicted mess, but the water channels that are constantly splashing around make Crocodile a little uncomfortable. The weakness of sand fruit is water. But Crocodile didn't panic, because he was also very strong despite sand fruit. This has to be attributed to chaos. Since following chaos, Crocodile has been forced to practice physical skills. For example, wearing a sea stone for practice. Crocodile didn't think it was right at first, but after practicing, he found something was wrong. Because the increase in strength is obvious to all, he slowly stopped rejecting it, and it smells good. Call. With a puff of smoke, Crocodile disappeared. It is shaved. Looking at that posture, I don't plan to use sand fruit, but I also want to compete with pangolins using physical skills. Usually he is playing against chaos, he is the one who gets beaten, and he is often despised by chaos, saying that he is a scum without sand fruit. Crocodile expressed dissatisfaction. The air current kept passing, and a golden warrior led the 3 ladies, soaring towards the top of the cloud. But when the 3 women of Cocos looked at the world, the whole body was bathed in lightning. The size of the god-tier holy god-tier goddess. The face that was originally pale because of serious injuries, became even more pale. Mind was hit by an unprecedented shock, and his head went blank. The sight in front of them has made them give up thinking, because it is too shocking and fantastic. It may be 1 minute or 10 minutes. The 3 of them, led by the golden warriors, passed through the thunderous clouds. With a ray of sunlight projected down, the vast and boundless sea of clouds was endless. All 3 of them subconsciously squinted their eyes slightly, and when their sight gradually recovered, their blood-stained red lips were all slightly open. In front of them was a mini goddess of 150 meters tall, with 3,000 gold silks and skirts flying, and the huge light wheel behind it turned to make the sound of golden leather. The goddess of the golden god at this time, put her hands up and down on her chest, and in that palm is a golden throne, on which sits a man with Erlang's legs tilted up and one hand resting on his chin. The expressionless face looked like a god looking down on all living beings, making the 3 of Cocos unable to return to their senses for a while. This scene will be deeply imprinted in the hearts of the 3 women and will never be forgotten for a lifetime. Too overwhelming. It was too earth-shattering. The golden ribbon held in both hands by the goddess waved and stood in front of her to form a platform. The golden warrior and the 3 women stood on it, then knelt on one knee and bowed her head. However, the 3rd Coco girl collapsed on the golden platform, and could only look up at the sacred light. Are you 3 of Stussy's men? Caios was very satisfied with the expressions of the 3 women, as if he had seen faith. It's not in vain to pretend to be so deep. It seems that his acting skills have already entered the room. Perhaps only a small step away from the actor. Yep. Seeing that the 3 women's eyes were empty for a long time without answering, Chaos's eyes became a little sharper, and the 3 women suddenly lowered their heads quickly. Yes, it is. The atmosphere did not dare to breathe again, and the 3 women could no longer think. Introduce yourself. Chaos flicked the gold snowflake earrings and made an extremely ethereal voice. His earrings can be described as fickle, just so proud. Big. Your lord, I'm Guy Simi. Guy Simi on the left was the first to speak. It was a seductive woman with light yellow amber eyes, blue wavy hair, wearing a fuchsia skirt, black stockings, and long shoes. Coupled with that pale face, the lethality is 88%. The appearance and figure are very high. I'm Lily. In the middle is a woman with green eyes and willow eyebrows, wearing a floral princess dress, blue high heels, and waist-length lavender long hair. The appearance, figure, and lethality are also maintained at around 88%. I'm Coco Silk. On the right is a woman with short red wavy hair, black phoenix eyes, short shorts and a t-shirt, the youngest of the 3. The score is around 89%. All 3 of them are beauties, so just looking at them is very seductive. The most important thing is that these 3 people are very loyal. The situation in the hotel just now shows that the three have not betrayed Stussy, which can be said to be an extra bonus. Very good. Chaos snapped his fingers, and the goddess in the golden platform suddenly fell weightlessly, causing the three of them to scream. On the ground, the battle is already fierce. Call out. A chain of buildings was penetrated, and the head of the golden armor was deformed and tumbling. Eventually, he walked out of the dust with the gravel with one hand, and the sunken head healed automatically. That figure is still full of sacredness and coldness. The saber-toothed tiger on the opposite side fell from the air, and the body shape of the loose tie began to change. His body swelled continuously, and patterned hair appeared from head to toe. It was just a few breaths. Standing in front of the golden warrior was a human-shaped saber-toothed tiger, spreading the brutal and tyrannical might. Zone, ancient species, saber-toothed tiger form. Aside from this devil fruit, he is still the owner of 6 forms, life return, and 2-color hockey. This CPO is different from the previous ones. No wonder Stussy was a little panicked at first. Call out. The ground under his feet was sunken, and the saber-toothed tiger turned into an afterimage. The strong and powerful feet of the animal tore through the eardrums, forming a storm that swept the golden warrior's head. The golden warrior did not panic, and also raised his right foot and swept in one fell swoop. In an instant, a storm swept across, and the surrounding ruined walls were pushed horizontally, exposing the most central cobweb crack. At almost the same moment, the two of them pumped their feet and knocked their knees together. Finger pistol. The saber-toothed tiger pierced the air with his right hand and stabbed the golden warrior's forehead in one fell swoop, but the latter ignored it at all. This style of play, which is the same as it came up, really made the saber-toothed tiger a little frightened. With the sonic boom of sparks colliding with metal, the golden warrior's forehead penetrated to see the scenery behind his head, while the saber-toothed tiger's right hand covering the armed color firmly grasped the golden spike, making it impossible to move forward. But at this moment, the light wheel erected on the back of the golden warrior suddenly merged into the back, and then more than a dozen spikes appeared in the chest, which slammed into the saber-toothed tiger's chest like a hedgehog. The black and gold pieces are all covered with armed colors. Iron body. The saber-toothed tiger moves very fast, the chest is bulging, and the iron body is used for the first time and covered with the armed color. It is too late to escape and can only be carried hard. With the steel-like impact, the saber-toothed tiger's feet were sunken in the ground and moved horizontally, and his face was a bit ugly. His chest is overflowing with blood, and some blood holes can be clearly seen, but they are only minor injuries. It looks a little scary, but it didn't make any impact. Because the dripping blood stopped immediately, the wound healed with 2 or 3 breaths. With the return of life and devil fruit's resilience, this injury is not a concern. Chang Chang. The golden warrior burst and turned into a handful of small 18 weapons, pointed at the saber-toothed tiger, turned black and gold when visible to the naked eye, and shot out like bullets with a sonic boom. Pause time. All the surrounding flagstones burst and flew, and the saber-toothed tiger sometimes sat backflips or used its tail claws to poke away, even if 1 or 2 shots on the body did not cause much damage. Hid your head and show your tail. Putting a black and gold weapon on the ground, the saber-toothed tiger looked up at the roaring sky. He knew that the golden emperor was there. Rustle. As if the sound of quicksand flowing, the weapons inserted on the ground all turned into gold powder and floated in the air, all surrounded by the saber-toothed tiger. It's like a golden haze. Although it looks beautiful, the saber-toothed tiger tensed its body for the first time and used its life to return and manipulate various parts of its body. At the same time, it also covered the armed color. Even the nostrils and ears were not let go, and they were all closed to prevent any gold powder from entering the body. As Zone Awakener and Master returning his life, the saber-toothed tiger held its breath for more than 20 minutes without a problem. He had known some methods of the Golden Emperor beforehand. Knowing that the Golden Emperor can use gold powder to achieve the point of manipulating people, so it is absolutely not allowed to let these gold powder enter the body. Whether it is active or passive, I have to say that the saber-toothed tiger is doing the right thing. In a fully enclosed situation, these gold powders do not have much effect, but it is not a way to continue this way. It is impossible for him not to breathe all the time. The most important thing is that the enemy will not give him a chance. Buzzing. The dull sound of the air being squeezed, as if some heavy object was falling at a rapid speed. As soon as she raised her head, the golden goddess suddenly fell, and the ground surface exploded in a radius of 10,000 meters. The surrounding crust was lifted to form hills, and large buildings were pushed by the shock wave to form the Gobi. The appearance alone is full of shock. The saber-toothed tiger closed his eyes, which did not hinder his perception. Facing the goddess, she showed tyranny and fierce power. The Golden Emperor still did not appear, clearly ignoring him. Do you think you can defeat him just by manipulating the goddess? Overweight. This is the goddess of the Golden Emperor. It's the Golden Emperor. At this moment, people in the City of Seven Waters, as soon as they see the goddess, they understand who it is. After all, the world is unique. Chang Chang. The collision of the Golden Horse and Iron Horse sounded, and the 150-meter-high goddess, all turned into 18 swords, spears, swords and halberds, and the lock of the sky, all fell into the sky like a net of heaven and earth, and the scene made the pirates in the surrounding area or the civilians were panicked. Run. Withdraw. The Golden Emperor of damn it. I won't leave. I can become the richest person in the world as long as I catch the Golden Emperor. With so much gold, I only need to move one piece. Greed, panic, fanaticism, life is constantly happening at this moment. Some want money but not life, not only do not flee, but also desperately squeeze into the center. All of them have red eyes and lost their minds. Shoo. The sound of a swarm of bees breaking through the air. A weapon is only tipped to cover the armed color, and the rest is still gold. These attacks look powerful, but they can be consumed. Humph. The saber-toothed tiger snorted coldly, keeping his whole body returned and covered with armed colors, kicking out a few feet in succession to form a 100-meter tempest kick, attacking like a bamboo shoot, and quickly flew in one direction. In the perception of seeing, hearing and color, the real body of the Golden Emperor was in that direction. The other party didn't mean to cover up. Boom. Explosions continued to rise one after another, as if a group of missiles were being bombed, and the area around the flying sand and rocks was in earthquakes. The figure of the saber-toothed tiger flashed quickly, flying weapons or avoiding it from time to time. Although he was not injured, he was restricted to one area time and time again. Jingle bell. The lock of the sky flew in rows like sharp arrows, plunged into the ground and stretched straight and began to line up troops. Instead of attacking the saber-toothed tiger, it gathered together to form a birdcage. But when it was half formed, the saber-toothed tiger found signs and evacuated very decisively and quickly. Despite the price paid, it quickly healed. Birdcage failed in battle, and began to circle the saber-toothed tiger like lion majesty, trying to tie it up in one fell swoop. Damn it. The saber-toothed tiger's face was blue as he continued to fly in the residual scars and broken walls. The opponent's attack was too difficult. I haven't even seen the opponent's figure until now. But he doesn't panic. If time permits, he can spend half a month with the Golden Emperor. 5 minutes later, all the explosively fired swords, spears, swords, halberds or locks of the sky lifted into the sky, reunited and transformed into a goddess, still so sacred and noble. Humph. The saber-toothed tiger breathed smoothly, looking at the goddess in the air with a cold face. He wanted to see what the Golden Emperor wanted to do. Screen transfer, inside Dock 1. At this moment, a big fat-horned murloc was wearing dirty work clothes, holding a wrench in both hands, looking at chaos with some solemnity. There is also a young man holding parts beside him. Probably around the age of 13 or 14. Chaos was smoking a cigar, and he came here after falling from the sky. As for the 3 daughters of Kakasi, they did not follow. Chaos came to the City of Seven Waters not only to solve Stussy's affairs, but also wanted to talk to the murloc in front of him. Mr. Tom, don't you ask me to go in and sit down? Chaos spit out the smoke ring, glanced at the dilapidated house in the dock, and then looked at Tom and Ace Bagu, Iceberg. Mr. Golden Emperor, please come in. Tom was very calm, and glanced at the direction of constant vibrations in the distance. The 3 entered the house. Chaos sat on the repaired sofa, and Ace Bagu made 2 cups of coffee, also very calm. Although also recognized the identity of Chaos. Very nice. Chaos took a sip of coffee, very leisurely. I don't know what's the matter with Mr. Golden Emperor coming to me. Tom didn't have the mind to drink coffee. What happened today in the City of Seven Waters shocked his mind. The man in front of him is famous in the sea. The battle that took place in the City of Seven Waters was inseparable from this man. Little guy, please go out. Chaos put down the coffee cup, leaned back on the sofa and tilted Erlang's legs, habitually flicking the gold earrings with his fingers, making a crisp and loud sound like a wind chime. The remaining sound lingers for a long time. Although Ace Bagu remained calm, his heart was surging. Subconsciously looked at the mainstay Tom. You go out first. In Tom's opinion, the Golden Emperor may have asked him to build a pirate ship. After all, his craftsmanship is also well known throughout the Grand Line. Yes. As Ace Bagu exited the room, only the calm Tom and the careless Chaos were left. Interesting. There was a playful look on Chaos's face, and the goddess who was fighting with a move of mind changed again. Sorry, I didn't tell you. Seeing Tom a little puzzled, Chaos smiled. He is now fighting while drinking coffee. Russell. As Chaos spoke, the golden light wheel erected behind him burst into gold dust without warning, covering Tom like a golden haze. Just 2 breathing golden haze recondensed on the back to form a light wheel. Tom was frightened by this sudden situation. Mr. Golden Emperor. Even fools know that the situation is not right. Don't panic, just in case you commit suicide. Chaos picked up the coffee again, took a sip, looked indifferent, and began to enter the topic. I want Pluton drawings. As soon as the atmosphere in the room condensed, Tom's pupils shrank, but they quickly returned to normal. The same is true for a tight body and an accelerated heartbeat. With this acting skill, Oscar is completed. Next is the beginning of the show. Mr. Golden Emperor. What Pluton drawing? Tom seemed to have heard of it for the first time, frowning, and he didn't understand it very well. The acting is good. Chaos looked at Tom with a faint smile, and then said very positively, what I want is the design drawing of ancient weapon Pluton. I know it belongs to you. Don't be anxious to refute. Your acting skills are too clumsy compared to mine. Everyone is calm and settled this business. Everyone is happy. I never like to force people. I usually kill him and his family first and then torture him. Sometimes I feel like a pervert myself. Without giving Tom a chance to speak, Chaos seemed to be talking to himself, without a trace of fluctuation in his speech. It's like talking about a very common thing. There is no eloquence, and there is no vicious threat on the face. Everything is plain.